All right, I'm calling to order the Board of Supervisors and Board of Supervisors meeting. And I'll turn that over to the EDA.
I hereby call to order the Goochland County Economic Development Authority here at 6 o'clock on 2/25. And we've already determined a quorum in our meeting previously, and no one has left. So therefore, Mr. Chairman, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, I will turn it over to Dr. Rayler.
Good evening and welcome everybody. We're glad that you're here and thankful to have the opportunity to spend some time in discussion with our friends from the EDA and talk about the important topics in our community today. So I think first on our agenda is to have a conversation related to a regional economic development authority. So, no, that's not first.
No.
Okay, so turn it over to Sarah.
Yes.
Give us an update.
Good evening, everybody. First on the agenda, we are going to do a recap and an update. Last time we were together was August of 2024. We've had a lot happen since then, and the board gave the EDA some funds, and we want to make sure that you guys know what we've been using that funds on, so we plan to go through some of those details. And to do that, I'm going to turn it over to Nora Amos, our Director of Economic Development, and Chance Robinson, our Assistant Director. And they're going to lead us through some of that.
Chance has our first
All right.
part. Go ahead.
All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming out. So as Sarah said, we're going to give a quick recap of kind of what we've done since that August 2024 workshop. There was three major discussions at that workshop. And the first one we kind of want to touch base on is the need for a more diversified tax base and ways to achieve the 70-30 split that we are trying to reach as a county. And so with that, just some quick updates. So in 2025, the actual investment based off building permits that came in was $488 million in investment. That is a record for Goochland County. A lot of it was driven by Amazon Fulfillment Center on Ashland Road, as well as Axial Rockville 64 on Ashland Road, and some other developments in West Creek. We have $6 billion in active construction, which are just active projects. That includes the Eli Lilly project. And then as well as the board took action in adopting the technology overlay district and the technology zone to further economic development opportunities in those areas. And then, a small part, but a mighty part that we've seen growth in is our tourism impacts in 2024 grew substantially. So we had $59.2 million in direct spending, a 15.1% increase in direct spending from 24 to 23. It was $102.2 million in total spending for 672 jobs and contributed $3.3 million in total impact on local taxes. That data comes from Tourism Economics from Virginia Tourism Corporation. They release that data every September, so we will not get 2025 numbers until September of 26th of this year. We have seen new businesses like Amazon, Seven Lady Vineyards, Hinkles McCoy, and Burke and Herbert Bank start construction, and other businesses like Virginia Controls and Virginia Urology open. And I also want to kind of highlight this quote from Virginia Urology. I highlighted it in the EDA meeting. I'll highlight it again here. It says, "We are deeply grateful for Goochland County's unwavering support and timely guidance through the Virginia Urology IR Center expansion. Their commitment to efficiency and collaboration has played a critical role in bringing this important project to life." And so kind of just to give a little background, they created this concept of bringing in a partner business, which is IR Centers, to expand next to them so they can expand their offerings at Virginia Urology. They had this concept in June, and they had a ribbon cutting in December. So they were able to move through the permitting process and everything, construction, in a 6-month time frame, and they were very complimentary of Goochland County and our permitting and departments to get them up and running as quick as possible. So those are just some quick highlight updates I wanted to go through. The next major discussion point was the lack of commercial, industrial, retail land and buildings in the county. And so part of this discussion was investment in infrastructure and sites to create business-ready sites. As we know, speed to business is super important for new businesses coming in. And so the board appropriated $500,000 to the EDA to address this. So quick update on that. On the screen, you'll see kind of 3 major projects that address that. So on the top left is I-64 Industrial Park on Pony Farm Road. That is going to bring 9 industrial lots into the county. And I will say, to address the demand, all of those lots are under contract, as well as the 5 lots in Hanover that just show the demand for small industrial lots for industrial businesses looking to grow. Top right is Axial Rockville 64. That is a 335,000 square foot spec industrial building on Ashland Road. Bottom right is West Creek Commerce Center, which is a 221,000 square foot spec industrial site in West Creek. And on the left is Trinity Capital West Creek. This site plans, they're not under construction yet. They just submitted their PODs, and they will bring over 500,000 square feet of spec industrial warehouse and light manufacturing space. And so, since we've last talked, we have added 9 industrial lots, like I mentioned. And in the next 3 years, we will have over 1.1 million square feet of spec industrial space for new businesses to come into, as well as existing businesses to expand into.
And I just want to underscore, we had none of that when we spoke in August of 2024. This has all been since then.
Give me that number again, Chance.
1.1 million square feet of
Spec.
spec industrial warehouse, yes. So the developers are developing it, and then they will lease it out to businesses.
A general time to get that leased out, pre-leased,
As
we're hearing.
I'm trying as much as possible. Every time I get a project that fits one of their descriptions, I'm pushing one of these buildings. So, I'm partnering with the brokers to try to get these pre-leased as much as possible.
Chance, if I may, real quick, Trinity Capital, what's the specific location?
That's on West Creek Parkway,
But,
next to Kindred Spirit,
oh,
that American Trade Center.
okay, thank you.
Next to or across the road from?
Next to.
And Chance, that doesn't include the 9 industrial sites, it's something may go there.
Up here, no, that does not include the 9 industrial
So
sites.
it's underway, in other words.
Yeah, those 9 industrial sites, do not include the spec, the
So
1.1 million spec space.
Some more.
Yes.
Chance, I'm well familiar. I park in Kindred Spirits
Yes.
most mornings when I run. Next door to them is Hallmark.
South side, on the southern side.
Okay, so no clearing has started there. 'cause
No,
I
no,
know
sir.
The Amazon distribution has started and then West Creek Commerce has started.
Yes,
because
those
There
are
used to
both
be a lot of
included.
trees there and there are not anymore.
Yeah, like I mentioned it, you might have missed it, they've just submitted their site plans and PODs in the past month, so we're still early stage, but they're very excited to be in Goochland. So I'm gonna go over some of the $500,000 that the EDA has spent so far. So the first one I want to highlight is the Markel West Creek site development. So the purpose of this money was to conduct site due diligence on the West Creek Markel site for the purpose of supporting the recruitment of Eli Lilly. This expenditure really empowered the Economic Development Department to provide current and accurate site information to Eli Lilly. This was completed in June of 2025, and the costs to the EDA were $77,250. This played a big deal in landing Eli Lilly. And so with that, just want to, of course, go over the Eli Lilly project. As you know, we were all there in September. Governor Glenn Youngkin and Eli Lilly announced a $5 billion investment in West Creek. It's going to create 650 permanent high-paying jobs, as well as bring 1,800 construction jobs to the region. Greatly benefit our local economy. I think one thing that hasn't been highlighted enough is that Lilly expects that for every $1 invested in their Goochland facility, up to $4 will be generated in local economic activity. And so I think that is a really good comparison of a proactive take that the EDA did to help recruit a project using the funds that the Board of Supervisors appropriated to them back in August of '24.
So Chance,
Yes, sir.
you would say that 500,000 was money well spent?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
Well, Chance, I did the math I mean, what happened to the other 420,000?
We're going through it.
Okay.
It's in our rainy day fund.
Those aren't good comments. But
West Creek Site Development Grant. So this was a grant we provided to West Creek Associates to perform due diligence on various parcels in West Creek, mostly on what they would call Campus 2. This included site inspection, wetland assessments, boundary survey, geotech studies, and historical, cultural, and endangered species studies. These were completed in November of '25, and so we split the cost 50-50 with West Creek Associates, so the EDA ended up paying $58,500. The next is Terracon vibration monitoring. So this was to study the geological vibration impacts from quarry blasting on sites on Ashland Road to better understand the impacts of the blasting vibrations on future industries and what can and can't go on sites around them. Because, you know, there is, what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, sensitivities in the ground and everything that industries can't put it, you know, might not be able to locate there because of what they might have in their building and whatnot. So this gives us a little bit more information on those sites and make them a little bit more site ready in case we do get questions from prospective industries or site selectors. And these costs were $22,000 for the EDA. The next is the oil bill, water, and sewer analysis. So the purpose of this was to
Sorry,
study.
I was just wondering what the results of that study were. So don't know, for the chart.
No, that was just an
What's the
example.
outcome of that study? The sensitivity analysis? Is it negligible? Is it substantial?
It's not
Is it
substantial.
limiting?
We have not seen it be limiting. What it did is gave us the data that then we can provide to the industry and let them make a determination, because it depends on what they're putting in their buildings that really, some of them can withstand a little bit of vibration, some of them can have none. So we were able to just get the data that we can then provide.
So the red line, the green line, the blue line that are higher than all the other lines is when a blast occurred.
That is true, yes.
And red is, it doesn't matter. I'm curious, I'll ask later.
Okay. So the Oilville water and sewer analysis was to study the feasibility and potential sources of bringing water and sewer infrastructure to Oilville for long-term county planning. Explored 3 potential routes for bringing infrastructure to Oilville, as well as groundwater. This was completed November of 2025, and the costs to the EDA were $98,205.
And I might add, that also piggybacks on our existing license, the county's existing license there for wastewater.
Again, what's the outcome of that?
It's part of the utility master plan that you'll hear more about from Elizabeth McDonald in April.
Do we have the results?
Of the oil bill analysis? Yes. we have it.
Can we see them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And then site characterization of Rockville LLC properties. So this was to provide match funding for the Virginia Business Ready Sites program for the purpose of characterizing a site on Ashland Road and Three Chop Road. It was approved by BDP in November of 2025. We are waiting for payment from BDP. I check the mail every day for that check from them. And these costs were $2,487.50 to the EDA. So this is part of the Virginia Business Ready Sites program. This was just for characterizing the site to put it at a tier 1, so then it could go through the tiers if they choose to do so through their development grants that BDP offers.
And that's the 3 chop by Wise Choice?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We got a bunch of 3 chops.
Yes, we did. And finally, want to kind of give an update on ideas to invigorate the Goochland Economic Development Authority and kind of ways to get them more involved locally with small business expansions and tourism. and the board appropriated $60,000 to the EDA for this, and so I will go over the outcomes of those so far. So the small business expansion incentives, the program created to offset cost of permitting, it was awarded to 3 businesses: Dover Hall for 7 Lady Vineyards, Artec Services for their new facility in the I-64 Industrial Park, and then Strickland Manufacturing for the new office and warehouse in the Goochland Industrial Park. Each project is over $1 million in investment, and all projects combined will create over 40 jobs and contribute $173,158 to the commercial tax base 5 years after completion.
Chance, do we, from an EDA perspective, do we look at intangible benefits? Because I see 7 Ladies, I mean, that's outdoors, that's, you know, you could argue Parks and Rec for, I mean, people going, community, you know, coming together.
Yeah.
Having just spaces throughout the county.
We definitely
That
think
makes
about it,
sense.
but for the point of these incentives and everything, we just look at tax revenue, ROI, and jobs. But no, we definitely keep that in mind, and quality of project and kind of the type of business and whatnot, so.
Any chance doing the math, each project is over $1 million, but we only had 500,000 to start with. So what was the incentive for?
So these were the small business expansion incentives that you got for it was the $50,000 you guys provided to us.
All right, so all 3 together was 50 grand.
So the EDA actually contributed an additional $10K to that budget.
So 60.
Yeah, so
Okay.
because all their ROIs and project amounts allowed them to be eligible for the full funding of $20,000. The first hall, Dover Hall 7 Lady Vineyards, they were awarded $20,000 for addition of a vineyard and 5,000 square foot tasting room. Construction has begun. They're aiming for a September, October opening date. They're estimating to create 20 new jobs, and after 5 years, they will have contributed $85,493.22 to the tax base, based off of their real estate tax that we got the assessor's estimate value for the building, and then the business personal property investment that they provided to us. As you can see down here is the layout of the ROI year by year for the first 5 years. The next is Artec Services. So they were awarded $20,000 to construct a new 8,800 square foot facility in the I-64 Industrial Park. They are so busy and growing so fast, they already hired their 3 new mechanics that they put in preparation for their new facility. They are anticipating opening by the end of 2026. They are moving from the Lanier Industrial Park, where they currently lease, and they will be going to the I-64 Industrial Park, where they bought a piece of property and are developing. So, you know, they'll become landowners in the county, and they really enjoy it. And I have a quote from them on the next slide. Their 5-year ROI is $32,015 when you look at the building value and plus their business personal property investment. So here's a quick quote from them. So we are very happy to be a part of the Goochland County Expansion Program. The dedicated people at the Goochland EDA have worked closely with Artec to provide opportunities for growth. As a small business, we are very thankful for the encouragement and support in reaching our business goals. Remaining in Goochland County has been a priority, as we feel a connection here with the county and community of small businesses here. If you're ever on Ashland Road and see a bright orange truck with an R on the side, they're probably coming from Luckstone or Martin Marietta, where they were fixing their large vehicles in the quarries. I think just another great story about Artec is they are also growing to become a manufacturer as well. So they have started manufacturing their own parts. And right before this ice storm, they were slammed busy because every locality couldn't get the teeth to put on their snow plows. And so within 2 or 3 days, they manufactured over 350 sets of teeth that they then sold to different snowplow companies. And so it's just a really good story about a small business growing here in the county. Last but not least is Strickland Manufacturing. We awarded them $20,000 to construct a new 11,000 square foot office warehouse on their second lot in the Goochland Industrial Park. So they already own one lot in the Goochland Industrial Park, which they did have fire in a few years ago, but they got back up and running. And if you've ever been there, they are packed in there like sardines. They need this additional space. And so they're hoping to complete that project by 2026. And they also received a VEDP grant for their Virginia Jobs Investment Program, or what we call VJIP, that helps reimburse some of their costs for the 20 new jobs they're creating for training and recruitment costs. Their 5-year ROI is $55,650, all based on the assessor's estimate value for the building. I will then go to our TODS and logo grant. So this was created to offset the cost of VDOT approved signage to increase visitation to tourist attractions. We launched it in spring of '25 for businesses who do not currently have signs. We awarded 2 businesses so far, Bandits Ridge Winery, Dunkin' Donuts Rockville. And so just wanted to give a quick highlight of kind of a quote from Bandits Ridge of, highway signs are very expensive for any business, but it really hits hard for the small business owners. With the grant we received from the Goochland Economic Development, it was extremely helpful and appreciated. The sign has brought in lots more traffic to our winery since placing it in August of '25. People are definitely telling us how it stands out, and they have noticed it. And then I think the other thing I just want to point out too is after kind of working on this program and everything, the other thing you don't realize is how long it takes for these signs to go up. So businesses pay, and then they're waiting 6, 8, 9, 10 months for VDOT's contractor to finally get the sign up. So it's really a commitment from the business and initial investment for them to get started. And so, you know, we've heard good things from the 2 businesses so far that have gone through the whole process. Since launching the program, we've had 2 awarded. We had 1 decided against it after understanding the ongoing cost of the program. 2 are in the process of working with VDOT's contractor, and actually one of those 2 just got through everything and submitted their paperwork this week, so hopefully they'll be in front of the EDA next month or the following month. 1 just started the process, and then 2 other ones who applied were not eligible based on requirements. The VDOT also has strict requirements about the hours you have to be open and business size and everything for you to participate. So we have $8,409.48 left of the $10,000. Like I said, we have another business that will be coming to the business for some TOD signage they put up this past year. So, you know, we hear really good things about it, and I think it's a really good program for, you know, new businesses to get them started because the construction costs are high and everything for them to get going, and it's kind of a good way for them to test out. They say, oh wow, this actually does work really well, to encourage them to continue to participate with VDOT and their contractor. So-
Just doing the math, it's about $750 to participate in that if we got 8,000 left.
So we give 50% back of what their initial costs are. So it's actually closer to around $2,000. So the max award is $1,000, and that was to Bandits Ridge. They had to put up more Trailblazer signs, which cost extra money. Dunkin' Donuts, they're right off the interstate, so they don't have to put up all those Trailblazer signs that cost the extra money.
And what's the reoccurring cost?
There's a reoccurring fee. That's one of the, I don't have that number off the top of my head.
When I
right
was
now, but-
working with Virginia Tourism and VDOT, it was about $750 a year each direction. So if you're going south, it'd
Yes.
be $750. If you're going north, it'd be $750.
Okay.
And then there's
Yeah,
chance.
I didn't need the exact number, I was just curious, like ballpark. So.
Like,
It's
I
it's
think
more
it's
than
about
7.
1,000. I think it's about 1,000 or
I think
1,200.
I think it's right around 1,000 now.
It's been more than a week since I've
Yeah.
done that. Tourism.
So kind of want to just talk about what the EDA is doing now. So in the past, you know, they developed 3 industrial parks, they issued bonds. Present, they facilitate all of our incentive grants for new businesses like Hardywood, Residence Inn, Eli Lilly. They issued bonds for Sheltering Arms. Of course, like we just talked, Small Business Expansion Grant Program, the Logo TODS program. They do studies and site characterizations, to tourism and community-based sponsorship. So they support the Small Business Appreciation Event, Goochland Day, the Goochland Chamber of Commerce. They're available to offer ad hoc loans to businesses. as well as they do a Shop Local campaign through Blue Dot. And so, potential future EDA goals and initiatives, these are just some ideas of kind of ways we can grow. So revolving loan program to assist small businesses, facade grants to improve, downtown business facades or Main Street facades to help beautify the community, pitch competitions to assist micro businesses, expand medical provider services, tech business incubator ideas, as well as tourism initiatives. So kind of potential use for the remaining funds that they have from you all, continues to be studies for, different type of development, retail development, economic impact studies on specific projects, and of course, continued due diligence on sites and VB and Virginia Business Ready Sites program. And what the EDA could do with their own money kind of is what is up there, marketing initiatives for tourism and business attraction, new Shop Local initiatives, entrepreneurship and small business development programming, as well as, as I said, business incubator ideas. And that's all I have for that kind of recap. Happy to take any more questions you guys haven't asked throughout the presentation.
I think someone asked how much was left in the fund,
Yes.
with the funds that were given.
I got 330,000 left.
See if you unhide it. Right.
Yeah, $241,557.
What are the, given the ROI that we're seeing, what are the gating items to you all putting money out there as, at a faster pace? I look at it and go, if the engine is going, we need to add the fuel to keep it going at that type of ROI return. So, what do we do? Do we need to just increase the sticker amounts? Or do we need to be more diversified, or what are y'all's thoughts? The goal being, this is one of the key levers we can pull to get to 70-30. And we need to be utilizing it to the max extent.
Well, if I may, I'll suggest a couple things. One is, if you look at the case of Eli Lilly, it was the ability of EDA to have the funds already that you appropriated and able to move fast with it. So we moved fast to be able to get, I'll say, put some of the incentives in place that were really part of it. And I think that's true of, in fact, you asked the question about the vibration analysis. That's a precursor. That's an entirely different type of approach. So it's a precursor to get data. And data, obviously, as you know, becomes very important to a characterization of a site or a location. And I think that's what's important with regards to the two separate things. One is to be able to move fast with having allocated funds. And the other is to do recursive studies, whether it be vibration analysis, oil bill study, that really, again, piggybacks on the wastewater. So I think it's both of those. That would be my initial suggestion.
And you can see here, we've done all of this work and have only used a little over half of the funds. So we weren't coming here this evening, unless the EDA has something different, to ask for funds. We wanted to let you know what we've done and that we do plan to continue these similar types of efforts. And we appreciate that perhaps in the future there would be openness to discuss putting more money into the kitty.
I'm speaking from one seat, but
I agree with you.
I'm going to say, I wish you were asking for more
That's what
funds
I was
right
gonna
now, and
say.
you said you had
How
the
come you
exact
got money
places to
left
put it.
over?
I think I could answer that, or attempt to answer that by, it depends on how aggressive we want to get. That's what I think it boils down to. Some of the studies that we do, we kind of feel like we kind of have to in order to tier out a certain property and then One thing I want to bring up that Chance has kind of undersold himself and you know, the internal economic group. Your work with the state level, the VEDP, and like what you see what we have available, where the VEDP is marketing that, and we all know that, but I wanted, you know, them to get recognition for that. And also, you didn't bring up the economics, where you got in front of site selectors on a national level.
Yes.
So there's other things as far as promoting the county. Another thing is tourism. I think we're overlooking that as well. Or could be putting a little bit more focus and emphasis on that. But I just want to add in that, you know, we do look at the ROI on everything that we do, the same as you all.
Mr. Chairman, I know in our January of '24 goal-setting roundtable that the residents in, the drive was to get to Tier 4. And is there a list of sites that we want to get to Tier 4 so that it really does, the environmentals are done, the vibration study's done, the water, sewer, electricity has been done, all of the question marks that make it a Tier 4 site have been done. Do we have an inventory of Tier 4s?
We had 2 priority sites, and both of them have now been taken under contract, one by Eli Lilly, one by Amazon. So the one that we did, the Rockville 3-chopped one that we showed you a couple minutes ago, that would be our next goal, would be to accelerate. They're at a Tier 1 right now, them up to a 3 or a 4.
So I like the idea of having an inventory of Tier 4s.
Yeah.
And I don't know how one quantifies what makes a parcel eligible to be Tier 4'd, but to Charlie's point, if we've got inventory and we can say, you know, here's the short list, and then if you want to do more work, here's the long list. That would be the investment of the remaining $250,000. I'd like to see us pursue, is that we have Tier 4s, it's not site ready, we have Tier 4 inventory.
So, I don't like the idea of just because they have it, they should spend it. Kind of like what Mr. Sloan said. I think they should definitely have a big pocket of some reserves. That way, if Eli Lilly comes along, they can use it, act quickly, get those incentives out. But I'm also not opposed to, you know, getting more Tier 4 sites as well. So
Well, I was doing the math, 70,000 for Lilly, 58 for West Creek, 72. If they put 100,000 into getting us to Tier 4, that still gives them,
right.
I don't want to say,
But,
what do you call
know,
it,
could
ready
be-
resource, reserve funds?
So, okay,
Go ahead.
So I love this conversation, and you'll see why in a second, but I want to wax poetic for a minute. Mr. Lyle mentioned the January meeting where we all get together, and we had a brand-new board of supervisors that had run on keeping Goochland rural. And we realized, being the second fastest growing county in the state, that to do that, we're going to have to do something very, very differently. And sometimes that feels very uncomfortable. But I've been on teams my entire life. I can't ever say that I've been on a team that has decided, drew a line in the sand, said they were going to go for a goal, and we hit the goal. Chance just said, this is the biggest number in history, and we just looked at it and go, of course it is. Like Mr. Peterson used to say, we do the impossible before noon. So I just want to thank everybody. This is unusual that a group of folks get together, especially elected officials, and do exactly what they said they were going to do. And I want to thank the EDA, our board, and the staff, because everybody saw we have to change what we're doing. It didn't feel comfortable sitting in that room saying we're going to stroke the $500,000 check. We thought the returns on investment would be worth it, and they're paying off. They're paying off huge. I love the fact that we're sitting here going, "What's next? What's next?" We're not saying, "Okay, well we've met our." Mr. Lyle, soon after he got elected, said, "I want $2 billion worth of growth in West Creek," and I laughed. I said, "That guy's he's on that runner's high, I guess." But I mean, he's going to hit it. It's already hit it. He's going to probably triple or quadruple it. But I'm just thankful to be on a team like this. And I just wanted to take time to say
Mr.
that.
Grunauer, can you elaborate a little bit more on that? About, because you said keeping it rural, which I completely agree with everything you said.
Yeah.
But for the public's sake, why, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
so-
it looks like, to them, I imagine, it looks like we're doing the exact opposite.
No, I
Whereas-
completely get it. You know, we don't have a lot of strings or levers to pull as local government. And the way things are going in the General Assembly, we're gonna have less potentially. So, you know, trying to be creative in what we're doing, for all the right reasons, the previous boards, which I'll call the, you know, the first 2 terms of the Goochland Revolution, they did what they had to do. They restructured debt. They got the ship righted. They got Goochland out of the verge of bankruptcy. And to do that, we had to grow, and there was the economic growth that we had hoped to see. But instead, we built the infrastructure, and when our board came on board, we had a sheriff that had very aggressive goals. We had a new fire chief that had very aggressive goals to staff. And we have met and worked to meet those goals. Meeting those goals, if we were going to grow, if we continued on the path we were going to grow, all of District 1, 2, and 3 would look very different than they do today. There would be, we'd be pressing to have the water and sewer and oil bill. And we're not doing that. I mean, we're understanding what the ramifications are, but we're saying this board made a decision to say, if we're going to do this, and then, and COVID opened our eyes too. We were sort of blessed that we didn't have that much retail sales tax because we didn't take the hit that a lot of localities did, but we realized we're not diversified enough. We don't have enough to withstand a big economic downturn in residential. So I think it kind of got us all thinking, and the solution that we came up with, and I'd love somebody to find me a better solution, is to say we're going to invest, we're going to do what other localities have done, and we're going to say we need to get these things site ready. For 4 years, I heard Sarah talking about trying to get these sites site ready, and they weren't doing it. And then you'd be guys like me going, well, why am I paying rich people to improve their land that I could never afford? But we did it, and we saw the value of it. I've seen it paid off in dividends.
May I suggest, oh, please.
So it looks like maybe we have a target of 5-year, at least 100% return on investment on these seed money grants. Do we look at it from that standpoint and say, you know, if it falls within this metric, we'll grant the money? Is that part of the
May I
consideration for how to dole out the money?
Yes and no.
It seems like to me it's been a very good investment. And I would say the more of it we can do, the better off we are, because we're getting the good return, as long as we stick with those metrics and get that kind of return on investment.
I think there is, but I think there's also sort of what I call the flywheel effect, right? We've primed the pump, so to speak, and now that's going,
Right.
we want to make sure we're still feeding it. But I'm not sure it's, I think what I'd like to see us work on the next 2 years is clear goals and clear understanding of metrics around.
And how we're gonna get there, that's what
Right.
I'm leading up to. So what are we gonna do to keep that flywheel rolling?
Yeah.
And so do we go out and solicit businesses, or we're order takers, as they come to us?
I have a question that kind of speaks to this.
Yeah.
Isn't it time for a new strategic plan for the EDA?
Yes, the Economic Development Strategic Plan was adopted in 2019, I believe, and it is almost completed. All of the goals are almost completed in that, so.
So maybe it's time for a new strategic plan that then takes us into consideration of where we're going and how we're going to get there.
That dovetails with the comp plan. It's also 2018, and it's ready to graduate, and it needs to be refreshed significantly, I believe. I've mentioned that to Mark Deeb, who's on the Planning Commission for District 5, that I would hope the Planning Commission would set a revamping of the comp plan as one of their objectives over the next months, years.
When I came on the board, one of my immediate awareness was that we hadn't funded our EDA to any significant extent. And we've now done that. I'm not saying I've taken the credit for it, I'm saying, but we saw the light with some new attention being paid to it and so forth, and it's reaping good benefits. So I think what we're saying here is that the Board of Supervisors will continue to support this effort because the return is very measurable and very positive. The outcome is very significant for the county.
And one other thing, if I may, back both your points, you have to be able to take care of the trends that you're in. So if you look back in the teens, for example, there weren't the trends that we have now with reshoring, with, let's say, recovery of investment, et cetera, and really what's going on now, which is the largest investment ever in human history. This is a trend that started about 2.5 years ago, and we're going to eclipse the largest event that's ever occurred in human history, which was the industrialization of the United States for World War II. We'll be over that at some point within the next 18 months. The reshoring, the AI, and everything that's occurring is a phenomenal wave, and if we can capture it, and Eli Lilly is a part of that. You know, if you look at the announcement that came out in December between NVIDIA and Eli Lilly, the $1 billion facility they're doing, it's all AI, and it's all about drugs, and it's going to be feeding our facility here in terms of oncology and cancer treatment. So we're in a perfect place to take advantage of a lot of this, and I think logistics is part of that. And you can look at the level, what Amazon warehouse is. That's robotics, that's AI, that's the implementation of it. So I think we're in a perfect place to take advantage, and what you funded has allowed this to happen. Because, yeah, you're right, all the money before has come strictly from the sale of bonds, and whether it be sheltering arms or any other precursor events. That's all the EDA money, it's never come from taxpayers.
Have we actually hit the 70-30 at this point?
No. That's the type of thing you move by a decimal point, by basis points, not significant.
When Eli Lilly opens, is that the benchmark where we will have hit it?
So it does, Mary Ann, our assessor, picks up the value when there's a CO issued. So we have to wait till these businesses actually open and they get their assessment. So we're not sure if we'll hit it then or not.
I'm on track.
Yes.
I'm kind of in agreement with the strategic plan. The reason being is, I mean, what do we want as a county, right? Do we want us to focus on, you know, a big fish, or do you want us to fill in, you know, what other needs of the counties is with like retail or any other types of industry that we want to focus on, and then back into our budget, so to speak, from that, because we may want to pivot from where we're focused on now versus just feeding the system.
I think Chairman Sloan brings up a great point of that. How do we, because I feel like we, in this case, we're coming up on the back end of the curve. How do we get in front of the curve? So what, if anything, can the EDA do to help us ensure that we are prepping for robotics, prepping for the next generation of the workforce, which, you know, can be a myriad of things right now, so that we're out ahead of it, and folks know that Goochland is innovative. So much of the work we did this year was to signal to folks that Goochland is open for business. We are innovative. We will do the hard thing, and we will stand up to do what is right. And that's what I think we need to make sure we're capitalizing on that way. So what can we do as a community to make sure that we are posed for the next 20, 30 years of what markets look like?
I think the strategic plan speaks to that
Yeah,
as well. And
absolutely.
maybe we do like a rolling strategic plan, like a 5-year rolling, so we update yearly, and so we know we're ahead, and we don't have to go through the big thing every.
I think there are opportunities too, you know, to look at this through a county-wide lens, because last time the county as a whole went through this, it's 2018. So I think it's an opportunity to determine how we move forward through a strategic lens, and ultimately the role that economic development plays in that, and all the other elements that the county is responsible for. So the time is certainly right.
So, Sarah, if my memory serves me well, it's when we were talking about this in January of last year, one of the big challenges was the the price of going from, tier to tier was high in some instances.
Yes.
Significantly more than.
Millions of dollars.
Millions of
Yes.
We need to bring that to the table, in my opinion, just because I remember then we were like, that feels too much. But on the back of these successes, I think that's the type of thinking we need to do, where it's like the engine is going, where can we add the fuel and get it in efficiently and effectively. And then second, Ben, you made a point earlier just about the studies, and they're great. I mean, those are the fact that we can hand those to these individuals and say, we've saved you 8 weeks or whatever. One thing that I think is what I would like, just as a general strategy, is whenever we go out for any type of study, we fast track. We go to those agencies and we say, you have a 3-week cost and you have a 6-week cost. We want the 3-week cost because we're showing ROI when we get to market as in an efficient way. And I know that sometimes we can look at it and go, oh yeah, just the regular way will suffice. And when it's working with appraisers, when it's working with any of these service providers, I've always seen that you get tiered pricing based on speed. So that's a little thing, but nonetheless, an initiative that we can just say, no, we're going to be, wanting it as because we see the value playing out when we hand these packets to all these players.
And therefore, it becomes multidimensional. So, for example, when you're talking about the ability to capture certain things, it's very important what the schools are doing now, right? With their workforce development, robotics. So it's really your multidimensional approach to that infrastructure, whether it be water, wastewater, roads, so forth, that needs to be encapsulated in all of them.
Right.
And to Neil's point, this is on a different budget, but CIP, CTE, that being funded appropriately is a key investment that we've got. So, I mean, that building, I hope is state of the art from day one.
Yep.
I have a question for you guys. What's our interaction with the Building Ready Sites Fund been like? Did we ever qualify for any of that?
So we have used it for site characterization, to get a site characterized. In order to receive funds to increase site characterization, you have to work and have landowner buy-in, and there are strings that come with it. And thus far, we've been unable to get any landowner to agree to the strings that come along with those grant programs.
Which has hampered our ability to get something site ready.
It has.
I think that fund is changing too. So I was reading some budget language that it's like it's having a step a little, so maybe it'll change.
Assuming that we kept getting big fish, how do we manage or control the secondary and tertiary businesses that come with all of these bigger businesses?
Feeder fish.
Well, no, I mean, I'm just
Where are you
thinking,
gonna go?
are they gonna fill in the gaps in between, and do we really want that,
Well, it kind of comes down to cluster economics right there, and a vertical cluster of supplier to buyer. And I think the 1.1 million square feet of
That's
spec
what I was
industrial
gonna say.
space that I was
Right,
gonna
Those
say.
people-
right.
I
They're
think
probably
that's
counting
right.
on,
Because they don't need
tertiary.
huge facilities, but they might want to set up a distribution network so that they can reach.
And that is
And they only need
Right.
50,000 square feet of warehouse space, and I think they could potentially be future tenants of that spec space that's under development to set up those vertical clusters.
Excellent.
And you'll hear, there may be some industry that might not be appropriate for Goochland, but wants to support the larger industry. And you'll hear a little bit later in our Regional Economic Development Organization presentation, how potentially join in a region group some of those businesses that might not be appropriate for Goochland can still come into our region and be close enough to support our
Right.
larger businesses.
Okay. Anyone else?
It's probably a good transition to the next agenda topic, I would think, so good segue there.
So, as was just mentioned, now we're moving on to our conversation about regional economic development organizations. And we do have with us, I'm gonna do a short introduction. I'm not gonna go too far into what a REDO is, because I think they're gonna do a great job with their presentation, and we can have further conversation after that. But I did want to introduce David Denny and Liz Povar with Rural Resilience Advisors. Both of them have decades of experience working with state economic development and regional economic development organizations. And so, Liz's background, again, over 45 years of economic development experience with the state and regional economic development organizations, including being an entrepreneur advisor to the Go Virginia region. I know for us, we've talked about this as being more involved with our Go Virginia and using more of those resources. So I'll turn it over. Do you want to control the PowerPoint, or you just want to?
Can I ask you to? Do you mind?
Happy
Nora,
to.
thank you so much. You know, I have it
Am I gonna
loaded.
stand?
I'm gonna stand. Are you all okay if I stand?
Yeah.
My voice will carry a little bit better, I think.
I'll stand behind you. I'm usually
Stand behind you like a friend. There you go. You can just stay right there for now. So
I'll just stand here.
first of all, thank you all for having us here. Chairman Christie, Chairman Sloan, Dr. Rainey, and members of the EDA and the Board of Supervisors. I've got to say, I don't think, and I've done a lot of work at the local level, let me start with that. I don't think I've ever been in a meeting where the discussion among these two groups has been as thoughtful, serious, impressive, and forward-thinking as this last 30 minutes has been. Very, very impressive. And economic development authorities and boards of supervisors who are unable to have this kind of communication create chaos at the local level and lose business opportunities so you don't get to your 70-30. But when you're aligned, and when you're transparent, and when you're able to be honest with each other about different opinions, but you're leading to the same goal, a healthy community, you'll be able to make this work. So I just want to say that. I also want to ask you all, does anybody in here follow McKinsey, the big consulting firm? Yeah, Ohio and Indiana, we always do that. So McKinsey had an article out today that I want to pull back to you all because I think it's relevant right now. It's called the McKinsey Shuffle Rule. Shuffle, like in shuffleboard. The McKinsey Shuffle Rule is the way the economy, or you as a business owner, or in this case, you as a county, are thinking about your future is different than you would have done 6 years ago or 10 years ago. 5 rules that they've put out here, which I think apply to everything you've talked about. Number 1, develop a granular view of your competitive advantage. What makes Goochland uniquely different? You're already unique, and I'll go into that in a little bit, but what makes you uniquely different in the future? Number 2, tailor that advantage to each market. Tailor that advantage to each market. So if you think you are exceptionally good at your K-12 education, how do you tailor that to the future students and parents who are going to live and reside here? Number 3, don't overinvest in areas that don't improve your competitive position. Don't overinvest in areas that don't improve your competitive position. Number 4, which I think is the most important, boost the return on your competitive advantage by embedding it into strategic decision making. We just talked about the need for updates to your strategic plans. Boost the return that you're going to get based on your strategic advantage in decision making. And then lastly, and someone else mentioned this out here, track metrics that can signal changes in this competitive landscape. Track metrics that can signal changes. You all are at an extraordinarily unique time in the history of Goochland, and to your point, in the history of this country, and in the history of how the American economy will function in the future. You're on the cusp. And my concern for you all is that you do take time to think about what it means to have landed an Eli Lilly in your community and what that's going to do to your businesses that are already here, to the employees and citizens that live, work, and play here, to your schools that have to educate students for the future, to your land use policies, to your water and sewer systems, to your transportation networks, to your innovation and entrepreneur people, to your small businesses, to your faith-based communities. Have you thought about what that huge investment with that number of people, which is going to be a once-in-a-lifetime investment, is going to create Goochland to look like in 10 years? You have the opportunity, starting today and actually starting from when you landed the project, to really begin to think differently and to be among all the 133 localities in Virginia, to be exceptionally smart about how you're going to use this competitive advantage. So I encourage you to think about that. We're not here to talk theoretically. We're here to present a very, very minor operational program that we think will help you become and build on your economic development history. You've had successes, and clearly listening to that slide, can you go back one slide? Listening to what Chance presented was phenomenal. So you might say, why in the world should we care about working with our neighbors, which is really what these comments tonight are about. I think you need to think about working with your neighbors even more so now, because your neighbors are going to be impacted by what you do, and your neighbors can also impact where you go from here. It's just like having a beautiful home in a wonderful subdivision, but the zoning allows all kinds of things to happen around you. That's not necessarily the kind of neighborhood you want to live in. You want to understand how to work with your neighbors to make sure everybody's kind of got the same goal of what you want your neighborhood to look like. So we're here to talk about how a regional economic development organization can help your staff and can help you as Goochland look to the future and become the best you can. David and I have been working with, and we're going to introduce ourselves in a minute, but we've been working with Goochland, Powhatan, and Amelia, these three counties right on the outskirts of the greater Richmond area, for the last close to a year. We've also been working with the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. That's my former employer. I had 21 years there, and I kind of know the ropes of how to work with them a little bit differently because I know where some of the bodies are buried. But we have presented to them an opportunity for a pilot or an opportunity to create a regional economic development organization on a 2-year basis that would improve your communication with the Virginia Economic Development Partnership and hopefully would enable them to know better what you want to be as you continue to grow up, what you'd like and what you don't like. It's equally as important for VEDP to understand what you don't want as it is for them to understand what you do want. VEDP and the other two counties that we've spoken with are supportive of this concept. They have agreed, the other two counties, Amelia and Powhatan, have agreed to join. You have the opportunity tonight for us to answer questions about what this means and then determine whether or not you as a county want to be part of this regional partnership. And part of what we were happy about was that the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, we spoke with leadership for the last year, have really taken their time to think about what we were offering, because it's different than anything they've ever seen before or thought about. And they didn't know how it would impact how they work with you, how they work with Amelia, how they work with Powhatan. So they took a lot of time to think about, does this concept work for us at VEDP or not? For David and myself and for your team, if VEDP was not on board, we would not be here tonight because it would not be a meaningful partnership. It would not get you better access to VEDP. We are being candid. We hope that you'll see the value in what we're going to present. We hope that if you don't see the value tonight, but you have questions, that we answer the questions in a way that makes sense to you. We would encourage you, as you've done with your staff, to just ask questions as we go along. We're standing up, but that's mostly because of volume, so just if you've got a question or we say something that doesn't make sense, let us know. The presentation is only 4 hours long. Is that okay? All right. Actually, we only have 12 slides, so we'll get through this fairly quickly. So first of all, who is Rural Resilience Advisors? Rural Resilience Advisors is a two-person partnership, a 2 LLC partnership. Both David and I have our own LLCs. And as we work together over the last, well, we've worked together for 20-some years, but in the last 10 years as we've worked together, we kind of crossed paths a lot when we were working in rural Virginia. And we got to thinking, are there ways that we can identify what we think are some gaps in rural Virginia's economic development programs, and can we bring some solutions and help these communities be stronger? You've all seen the numbers about Virginia's population trends lately and how some communities are growing, and in fact, you all were in the news yesterday with the Weldon Cooper numbers coming out. You're among the fastest growing in the Commonwealth, but our engine up in Fairfax County is not growing as fast, and in fact, losing population. And that loss of that economy and that engine affects rural Virginia very, very much because of how taxes are collected and how taxes are distributed back down. So as we looked at rural Virginia, we knew that there were some challenges coming up statewide that localities in rural Virginia couldn't address on their own. That's why we created this partnership, to be able to come into communities and say, we've spotted this gap in your economic development work. We'd like to help you solve it and fill it. I think we've been happy with the outcomes. We've got a number of clients that we've worked with. But the gap that we saw here had a lot to do with your being on the edge of the greater Richmond region. Okay, just you, as Goochland, Powhatan, and Amelia, you're right there on the edge of that development. Yeah.
Could you go, Dora, could you go back a slide? Only because,
This is the first slide.
Yeah.
well,
You want me to
whatever
go
was
to the
on the
next
screen,
slide?
there we go.
We're good.
Just, okay, you're gonna touch on that.
We're gonna touch on that right now.
There we go, sorry.
That's okay. So, just so you know who we are, we're going to briefly introduce ourselves as individuals and then get to this slide. So, David, you want to?
You saw most of the stuff, so I'm not going to bore you too much with it. Bottom line is, I'm a typical economic developer in that I have a undergraduate degree in geology, and I have a master's degree in anthropology. I was going to be the next great archaeologist, and ended up in business and spent about 28 years in business. Running businesses, marketing director of businesses, mainly in the engineering, environmental, and architectural fields. But I decided that after dabbling in economic development kind of on the side, this was 28 years ago, I wanted to have my own practice, and I wanted to focus on economic development because for me, of all the different things I've done in my career, economic development gives me the most satisfaction because it's all about helping communities like yourself be successful, your citizens to have new opportunities and economic success. And that feels good. That feels real good when we pull it all together. So I did that, and then I went with, I was in the New River Valley and ended up moving to North Carolina because my wife works for Becton Dickinson and certain things. That's a hot spot. So, but Blacksburg didn't have a very deep pool, so we decided to move. But 99% of my work has always been in Virginia. I'm a native of Danville, Virginia. I saw what happened to Danville, Virginia, when textiles and tobacco left, and it's a point of pride now. We used to kind of hang our head and said, "Well, I'm from Danville," but it's a point of pride now because they did what you're doing now. They were proactive. They thought down the road about what do we need to do to be successful with economic development. Number one thing is we need product, we need sites, and we need buildings, and we need to collaborate with each other. And when they started, way pre-casino, they didn't have money, and they were very creative. They formed RIFAs, Regional Industrial Facilities Authorities. The city of Danville and the county started collaborating. When I grew up there was only a couple of things we all agreed on. Number one, the city hated the county. Number two, we all hated Martinsville. And number three, everybody hated Lynchburg. That's just the way it went. So they came together, and they've really been a success story. And I think a good model for what happens. But I was with Sanford Holtzhauser Economic Development Consulting out of Raleigh, North Carolina for 10 years. I was a partner with them and became a managing partner. And we did the gamut of economic development. We did site selection work. We did a lot of strategic planning work. Feasibility studies, how do you turn this building, how do you reuse this building, all those types of things in economic development. But like Liz said, I had the call of the wild, and I really wanted to work in rural economic development. We had an aha moment together, so that's what we decided to do. And thank you very much for having us here tonight. I really appreciate it.
My background is a little bit different. It's complementary. I'm a Hoosier, not a Buckeye. I'm so sorry. Born in Indiana, thought I wanted to be a forest ranger, went to North Carolina State, figured out I didn't like chemistry, biology, and math, dropped out of school, ended up graduating from Bluefield University in far southwest Virginia with organizational management as my priority. Fell into the business of economic development. Worked for 501c6 that did the economic development work for the city and county of Greensville and Emporia, far south side Virginia. I learned there from a board of 21 members that it is the passion of the board and the vision of the board through which the staff can execute and be successful. The 501c6 was an interesting model because it's a private sector model doing economic development work for the public sector, and that's a little bit like we're suggesting here. I've got, just for the record, 3 children, 4 stepchildren, 10 grandchildren, so having a good time right now. We're gonna move on to this slide. This is really the fundamental piece of our presentation tonight. And David talked about relationships, and I talked a little bit about relationships. In the economic development business, while at the end of the day you make a return on investment, okay, for a company or for a county, it is about relationships. That's how it starts. It's who do you know? How do you get them to think about you as a place to do business? How do you find people who are selling Virginia to think about Goochland County? The Virginia economic development system is about 40 years old, and it's the only system like this in the country. And what I mean by system is, at the state level, you have the Virginia Economic Development Partnership. That is a state authority. As independent, it's not a state department. Okay, so it's got some independence. And as an authority, it does its work through regional economic development organizations. Everything you see on here that has a color is a regional economic development organization. It is not a state mandated group. That's the good news here tonight. Regional economic development organizations are not state mandated. They are built from the ground up. They are built from counties and cities coming together and saying, we kind of share either common barriers, common assets, common labor force, common transportation, agriculture. We share things together, we want to work together. And then the Virginia Economic Development Partnership works through those regions to bring prospect activity, to conduct certain types of research, to help with trade missions, to do all the work that BDP does. Each of these that are colors are well established. I think the youngest one here was just created, this number 6, the light blue, was just created in the last year. But the rest of these organizations are minimum 10 years old. The gray areas are counties, cities, or towns that are not members of a regional organization. When the Virginia Economic Development Partnership is working with business prospects, and remember, its mission is really to market Virginia as a whole, and it gets a business prospect, and it needs to look at sites and workforce and figure out who to talk with that might have the right site and workforce for a business prospect. There are, I think, less than 25 business development managers at BDP who have to cover 133 localities in Virginia, not including towns, which also have economic developers. It is much more efficient for VDP to work through a regional group to send that business referral through a regional group, and they have that regional group say, look at my members, VDP, I want you to consider these properties in my members. I'll do a lot of the work for you. If you think about it like a corporation, yeah, you got a corporate level that's based in Chicago, and it's manufacturing some product, and they have regions all across the Commonwealth, all across the country, and then at the local level, they have manufacturing plants, right? VDP is the corporate partner. These regional economic development organizations are the regional managers, if you will. And then at the local level, you have every locality, city and county in Virginia. What happens is that VEDP effectively does some special work with regional economic development organizations. They have certain marketing things that they'll do with regions. They have certain regular conversations with the regional economic development organizations, things that they don't do with every locality in Virginia. Again, it's an ability to have a system that works well for all parties. But if you are in the gray area, Surrey, Charles City, the three of you, the data shows that the business referrals that you're included in are fewer than your neighbor who happens to have the same demographics as you do, but is part of a regional group. It's simply a matter of bandwidth at the state level. It is more efficient for the project managers to be able to speak with a region than it is to go out to 133 different localities when they've got a business prospect. So our thought was, you three represent counties that are feeling development pressure, and there's an opportunity here to build a stronger partnership with VDP through the work that we could do as your contractor, very specific deliverables that we think will help you maximize the next 5 years of your economic development work. Let me stop there, David. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I think I was in Lowe's home improvement the other day. I don't know why I started thinking about this, but I did. I want you to think about something for a minute. You know, why did they organize things around regional groups? So think about Lowe's for a minute and just say, okay, Lowe's is just a big box. They don't have departments, okay? I'm saying that in this scenario, they don't have departments. So this week, a load of lumber comes in, a load of 2x4s come in, and you say, well, you know, there's empty space over on aisle 3. Go stick it over there. Okay. Paint comes in. Well, you know, there's no room for paint over. Let's put it over here on aisle 10. Something else comes in. They put it somewhere else. So then a customer comes in and he says, you know, I want a 2x4. So, oh, okay. Well, we got 2x4s there. I think they're over on aisle 23 or whatever. So the guy goes over there and he stands around for a long time waiting for somebody to help him, but they don't have enough people to cover all the customers and all. Lowe's has 40,000 items on their shelves every day in every store. So that's a lot of stuff. So the guy goes over there and they say, well, here's a 2x4. He said, well, wait a second, that's just a low-grade 2x4. And it's not treated. I wanted to treat it with 2x4. Oh, treat it 2x4. Bill, where's that? Oh, that's over on aisle 99. Oh, okay. Go over there and find one of those. Okay, you go over there. So then he goes over there and then sure enough, it's treated. He said, I was looking for one that already had a bevel to it, you know, those are hard, but okay, we find out. That's over on aisle 5. So fewer people trying to handle a lot of customers, absolute chaos in the warehouse. What do they do? It's just like the military or a corporation. They put all the lumber in one spot and have a sign that says lumber. And they have individuals who are analogous to your local economic developer in the locality. They have them there, they're the experts. And you go to one place and you tell that person what you're looking for, they can find it like that. So you get it and you go. So the system is more efficient if you can organize them in likeness. You know, things that are alike or similar, put them together, label them, and they're easier to deal with fewer people. And that's really what the purpose of the regional system is. Liz already said the capacity, human capacity within VDP is limited. They've got 133 localities. If they tried to go deal with 133 localities, nothing would get done, but they've done it this way to organize it on a regional basis for that flow that we've talked about as far as projects.
So the other thing about these organizations, they're all structured differently. Some of them are strictly partnerships. Okay, they're just an MOU. Some of them are 501c6s. Some of them are done by a different type of corporate legal agreement. All of them are staffed. All of them have their own funding. All of them have pretty much similar missions. Many of them do business recruitment activities. Many of them do business retention activities. Some of them do workforce development activities. It depends on what the local members want their regional group to do. What we are proposing here is a 2-year structure, just 2 years, kind of an on-ramp, a proof of concept, if you will, to see if Goochland joined a regional group, would it actually help you improve your outcomes? Would your ROI be worth it? And the reason we're suggesting it as a 2-year on-ramp is that we personally believe, that this system makes Virginia more effective in its economic development work, and we believe that your surrounding REDOs could be the place you should join permanently. But we don't know that right now because you've never been a member of a REDO, okay? So you don't even know if it would be beneficial to you. Part of our work would be to make sure that you understand how the Greater Richmond Partnership works, and I know that you all have had some conversations with them. I'm not gonna go deeply there, but understand what they do, how they do it, why they do it, what it costs. Look at the Central Virginia Partnership. What do they do? Why do they do it? What does it cost? Look at the Heartland area, look at the Gateway region. We would want to make sure you all understand that during this 2-year period, so that if you decide that being a member of a REDO based on the work that we are doing with your team is producing results, you'll have a place to go in 2 years that is part of an existing system.
How do these partnerships work? You know, because I see it as a competitive game. It's a zero sum in my estimation, because one locality is competing against another. Who referees this situation? Because right now you pick up your coins and you move on. Someone loses their coins and they move on. But there's no hard feelings because it's just the way the competition is. What if you get into a group and suddenly you're competing with another locality? How do you resolve that?
That's actually, it's a really good question. Yeah, and it's very common. However, in general, when you've formed, let's just take the Southern Virginia Regional Alliance as an example, they are able to market a cohesive workforce story. They're able to market a broad variety of real estate. And so they can at least get the client into their communities to say, what's here? What they're gonna learn is that there are different capabilities and different zoning and different water and sewer infrastructure, and all of it's different. But what they're always gonna have is a common workforce. So even though they're competing on real estate, which does happen, you find that you also, in most of these communities, don't duplicate the real estate. There's enough differences in the real estate that the business guy is gonna make the business decision based on the real estate that he needs and the workforce that he needs. What you've built is a trusted relationship among those communities that would not have been there had they not been part of a cohesive regional group. Because suddenly, Mecklenburg County, as a local economic developer, she can only talk about Mecklenburg County's workforce. She can't talk about the assets that are in Halifax County or that are in Brunswick and Greensville, because that's not what her supervisors are paying her to do. The regional organization can take on that aspect and can start to talk about how does the Institute for Advanced Learning support Mecklenburg County, even though it's not in the footprint? How does the Halifax County Advanced Center support Mecklenburg County? You're bringing more assets for her to market, you're building trust among those counties. When the business guy comes, he's gonna make the decision based on where he can get not only the best real estate, the best workforce, but also the best fit for his company. I don't know if that answers it, but at the end of the day, economic development is a competitive sport, no doubt about that. It is also a sport where a solo community who does not understand the assets that surround it is less competitive simply because it has less knowledge and less ability to bring those assets to the table to solve that client's problem. Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, are we currently at a disadvantage for not being part of an alliance? And how does that pair up with how VEP works with alliances versus individual? You kind of touched on that.
Yep.
But are we at a disadvantage for not being part of an alliance?
Yes, you are.
Can you elaborate?
You are at a disadvantage in that you're not at the table when strategic decisions are made between VEDP and the REDOs. So there are calendars that are prepared and how we're going to market Virginia. There are business leads that come to VEDP that flow through the REDOs that you are not getting part of. How I know that, well, let me not stop there. There are also opportunities for deeper support from VEDP's other divisions, their talent division, their research division, their trade division. All of those things are capabilities that come through REDOs, and you are often not at the table because you're a solo community.
Are we banned from being at the table?
No, you are not.
So we're allowed to be at the table?
You absolutely are.
So then why aren't we at the table?
Because bandwidth plays a role. Bandwidth plays a role. Now,
That's-
there are some,
That's a bigger argument,
Yeah,
but we are at a disadvantage for, just
but
because
we don't
it's,
have to be at a
it's not a
disadvantage.
level playing field.
But we don't
Well,
have to be, right?
and let
Well,
me
here we
clarify.
go.
All the resources at VEDP are available to all communities.
Right.
Except for those conversations that VEDP is having with the REDOs, okay, about how to plan for their marketing activities. How,
Why can't we be part of that conversation is my question.
because
You
you're not
pay
a REDO.
$385,000 to,
You're not a REDO.
Great
But
Woods
as a
Partnership.
locality, we have the right to be part of the conversation, correct?
As a locality, you technically have the right to be part of, provide your input. Would you be invited to the meetings? Likely not, if they're REDO meetings where the planning.
So this sounds like a state agency needs to be told to do its job instead of us.
No, I disagree with that. Having worked there for 21 years, I would disagree with you on that. The effect of being able to sit at the table and provide information about your region gives VEDP a lot of strength. They understand the capacities and kind of can help them figure out who to market to and why to market and how you want your message created. If they invited all of the localities independently, the conversations would not be productive, and the conversations would not get to the point of VEDP having the capacity to market.
But the point is, we have the ability, we're allowed to do it. We're allowed to be part of the
State
conversation.
agents, as speaking as a former state employee,
Yes.
state agencies that have services
Have to provide them to everybody equally.
have to provide them, not necessarily equally. I think if you look at, for example, DHCD works a lot of different programs, right? You're familiar with DHCD?
Yes.
Okay, so they have a lot of different programs for which there are qualifying criteria.
Right.
Right. So they're.
But being part of the
stating-
conversation doesn't have qualifying criteria, correct?
It does, being part, when in their planning efforts, as they look at their
So
marketing.
we're not,
calendar.
we're physically not allowed to be part of the conversation as a locality in the planning calendars? Is that correct?
You will receive the planning calendars and you get to participate in the marketing that goes on. And I think they do
But
rankings, is that
are we
right?
barred from being part of the conversation and creating the calendar?
I would not use the word barred.
Okay, I'm just
I'll
trying to
just-
understand
I mean,
what
I'll
we're
just go to
actually
a
allowed to do.
But I'll go to a conversation we had recently. If we do set up an economic development organization and get a warm invitation to all these things, the costs are so minimal relative to the potential gain. There's no reason to pick a battle or a fight when the alternative is, let's find a partnership.
My point is,
Good,
it shouldn't
that
be a
we can
fight.
leverage. I-
And it's
It's
a
a different
different
story, but do we want to, but I don't,
Why
do
should
you
we
want to
spend money
take up
because a
that?
state agency won't do their job?
Okay,
That's
They're
my
doing
do
point.
you
I
want to
would
cure
totally
that
disagree
or
with
spend
that. I will totally
whatever
disagree.
the small amount
There's
is?
other pros
Yeah,
to it.
if-
I just
if
wanted to
you-
bring that
if
up.
you-
Who's the chair here? Who's recognized to speak?
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
It's a fair, she's asked a very fair question. I think it's a very fair question, and I think it's a matter of practicality in terms of how agencies reach out to and collaborate with their partners at the local level. And every agency does it differently. Some it's by code, some is by practice. So,
And I mean, I was
Mr.
told
Chair.
in my conversations that we get all the same exact benefits. It's just a matter of making sure we get the benefits. And that you have to stay on top of the EDP to make sure you get your benefits.
Wouldn't it cost us more money as a municipality to have somebody doing that than just hiring you?
the difference is, yeah, are you asking, should you hire someone else?
Yeah, no, wouldn't it cost us more money to just hire one individual for our county to pay attention to BEDP than it would to hire?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, in this scenario with what we are offering to the county, yes, because we've structured the funding for
Liz, you got a very
specific.
good word, and that was practicality. And having been at BDP with regional groups, if I called up BDP and said, I'm such and such region, and I've got 5 members who want to come in and pitch their localities, we want to pitch the region, we want to talk to people from business development, we want to talk to the people who do workforce development, we want to talk to the marketing people. They will make sure that all those people, they have representatives show up because of the efficiencies. You got a regional group of 5 members who's showing up, or 3 members, makes no difference. If you're an individual member, unaffiliated individual member, practicality is that it's not as efficient for them. You might get somebody, you might get a junior person, you might get a senior person, but you never know what you're gonna get, and you're never gonna have the breadth of the oomph, for lack of a better word. It's better to have numbers, and that's one of the reasons that you do it from a practical standpoint.
Yeah.
Mr. Lyle.
Yeah,
please.
thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
This was, I didn't bring my notes with me, but
Sure.
there's several things, and if I'm summarizing it, what we would be hiring is your connections. You've spent 20-plus years down there, you know people, and that's what happens. People leave government, and they open up their own consulting firms because they know people, and I understand that. To follow up on the earlier comment, that we are able to access these things, and it kind of comes to mind, how did Amazon pick Goochland since we're not part of a REDO? How
Right.
did Lilly pick Goochland?
Right.
Because we're not part of a REDO. So I'm looking at results, and it's like, it's kind of working. I mean, it's kind of working. That being said, I, in theory, think it's a great idea. I think this year is not our year. We have a new Director of Economic Development.
Mm-hmm.
In the write-up I was given, I asked the question, how much time? Because every hour spent working with you on a redo is an hour they're not going to spend doing something else. And in the write-up I was given by staff, it said, might, can, could. You said earlier that you had specific deliverables.
Yes.
That wasn't in the write-up that was given to me. Would you do this on commission? If we were to say, you give us deliverables and you get a kicker, would you be a commissioned salesperson for us?
I'm gonna answer that pretty
I
frankly
hope you will.
and say no.
Okay.
Because it does not get to the intent of the combination of the 3 counties. It's the intent is to give you the opportunity to be physically and verbally at the table more effectively as a REDO than you would as an individual county. So
And I-
you could expand your bandwidth, okay, or you could ask us to contract. I personally would not do that because I don't think it's getting to what will be the advantage for you. But let me address one other quick question. No, it's not our connections to the people necessarily. I know most of the people at BDP, but they turn over a lot. Am I correct? They turn over a lot, and it's a young group up there. What it is a connection to the system that for 40 years has worked pretty well. And the ability to be a part of that system, I think, is what we can bring to the table to help you figure out if you think it is to your advantage, and doing it at a fairly easy fee. We do have information in here about what our deliverables are and what they would look like, and we're going to hopefully get to that, but I hope I've answered.
Well, it is, and I guess the follow-up is, we're contiguous with 2 other waifs. I mean, and what is our connection with Amelia and Powhatan versus Hanover, Henrico,
Yeah.
Chesterfield? Because our economic development is in the eastern part of the county.
Correct.
That's where we want to see West Creek
Yeah.
develop.
Yeah.
And so Amelia and West Creek don't. have
Seem
a
far
whole-
apart.
Yeah.
They seem far
And
apart.
so, again, I'll just conclude with this. In theory, I see it makes sense. I'm not comfortable doing it this year with a brand-new economic development director. She commented earlier in her meeting, she's going around meeting people. And I would hope her priority would be on onboarding as opposed to adding yet another initiative to her agenda this year. Next year, could be a completely different story.
Sure.
That's kind of where I am right now. Thank you,
Could we
Mr. Chairman.
hear the rest of the presentation?
Yeah.
I just,
Yeah.
I don't know, there's, we're on slide 2 of,
We've got like 9 slides, but we can get through them
I
fairly
just-
quickly if you
I got who would be the member, our EDA would be the member of this?
That's
Okay.
that would be a local decision, but typically it would be it would come, I think both.
Not that it really matters, but I just was curious. The other thing is, Mr. Lyle, there are always two sides to every story, so I would say, let's visit the idea of would this increase our staff's bandwidth rather than usurp our resources. In other words, we've got limited resources, so what do we put in place to expand, and increase our bandwidth on those existing resources? The other thing, I'd like to ask Nora, were you all, and Ashley, were you part of one of these?
We were within Hanover County, who was in the Greater Richmond Partnership,
Okay.
And so, yes, we did receive benefits through GRP because of Hanover's partnership with them. But we did not have to pay the $385,000. And I will,
A year?
a year.
Yes.
A year.
Every
A year.
Wow.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to take Mr. Spoonhour's suggestion and hear the rest of the presentation. I think she's going to answer some of the questions that you might have.
Okay, all right, let's go. Let me just touch on this, because I know, do they have a copy of this presentation?
No.
No, okay. So there's often confusion and concern that 3 levels of economic development appear to be doing the same thing. That is an inaccurate perception. What we've tried to do here is explain who generally takes the lead on certain functions of economic development. And you all know there are multiple functions of economic development. At the local level, typically you develop the real estate. Typically you develop the infrastructure. Typically you develop your local incentive policies and philosophies, et cetera, et cetera. At the regional level, the primary role is for the region to be a liaison to BDP and other state agencies, to be able to be up there when your staff cannot, to be a visible conduit to these state agencies. The regional group can also help businesses create supply chains. The best example I can give here is a supply chain called Bridge to Recovery that we created in Southern Virginia during the COVID situation when there was a need for, protective equipment. The companies didn't know one from another where they could get their supplies and where they could get their product. We created a program to connect company to company and increase business sales within the footprint. There are a number of companies in Amelia and Powhatan that will, down the road, benefit from the Lilly location. And there are advantages in Powhatan and Amelia that benefit Lilly because they bring a workforce component to the table that you can't provide out of Goochland. We can help with that kind of connectivity. Higher education collaboration, none of you all have a higher education four-year institution within your footprint, but there are four-year institutions that are adjacent that we believe should be part of your regional offerings. State economic development markets internationally typically, does lead generation, creates a state business climate, et cetera, et cetera. What has to happen here, and I think this goes to your question about are we offering this because we know people? We know systems. We know how the systems work, and we know when it looks like marketing is here, and marketing is here, and marketing is here, who the heck's on first? We know how to navigate that system, and it is a little bit complex.
And not just systems either. To your point, I think Liz is exactly right. We understand the systems, but we also understand deeply economic development. The experience we've had, we've worked on local level, regional level, state levels. I've done international work, site selection work, so we can complement the talent and the skills, almost be like an encyclopedia for you guys just to bang almost anytime you want to.
So the goals of this Rito, of a new Rito, would really be to promote a regional brand that's unified, gives you more visibility, and to enhance your competitiveness by helping to coordinate the assets that you've got and helping you to address the challenges that you've got. Let's go to the next slide. What do you have in common? You do have things in common. You're all feeling development pressure. You all share commuting patterns. You have you all culturally, as boards of supervisors and EDAs, want to see a balance of a healthy economy, a commercial economy with a rural economy. You are unique in that way. Many communities either want to be all rural or all Midlothian, and you three share this common culture, which I think is interesting. You have an emerging site inventory, but it's not really fully tiered, and it's not really diverse. But you have an emerging site inventory that puts you in common. You have complementary types of real estate that you could market collectively. Your workforce is commuter-oriented. You've had moderate and steady population growth, which makes you totally different from any other communities and regions. You all have a similar median age, younger. You all have high home ownership rates, and you all have similar labor force participation rates. Those are all your common technical things.
We're an older community.
Say again?
We're older.
I call you younger because I know how old I am. That's where I'm coming from on that.
But the employers
Subjective.
are not going to look at your age. And they're going to look at we're an older community.
Yeah.
We're an older community.
Correct. And if you broaden your labor force story, the
I
demographics
get
will
that,
shift.
100%. 13% of Goochland residents work in the county.
That's very low. Yeah.
That's our truth.
Let's go
Yeah.
change.
It's gonna get better.
What are your challenges? These were things we saw as challenges. And again, we spoke with BDP about this. We did research of our own on this. We looked at Weldon Cooper demographic information and census information and local zoning and tax information that we have access to. You all do have limited commercial diversification, and that means industrial and commercial. All three of you are heavily dependent on your residents. Concentrated employment centers, they're relatively small in each of your communities. You are all in competition with the greater Richmond area. There's not a one of your counties that has said, we feel like a company is being recruited to Chesterfield and Henrico that should be going here, so there's competition. Infrastructure challenges, cultural desires, small staff size. All three of you have small staff size. There's no doubt about that. You guys are the most senior and most robust staff of the other, compared to the other two for sure. But still small. Next one. Okay, sorry. Today the benefits.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna go through, you can read these benefits quite well. I think a couple of things that are really important. I think the on-ramp ability, get into a regional organization, learn how to operate in that, make yourself more valuable down 2 years down the road, or even 1 year down the road if you decide you don't want to stay in it after a year. So that's something that's very important. That regional identity and playing off of each other. Some of the 3-member localities have certain strengths, some others have different strengths, but together they're all stronger. They can make a much better picture when a company looks around, or BDP is beginning to look around and try to refer something to you. Extend staff capabilities, research, FAM tours, databases, that type of thing. We've tried to organize this in a way that there's these common services that all three will share, but you're unique, each one is unique, and you may have some unique services that you want us to do under this umbrella. We're going to talk about those in just a minute. Talk about the on-ramp experience. The other way that we kind of look at this is going to be a regional light version. So a lot of these organizations, they have bylaws, they have 501c3 requirements, taxation requirements, all of these things. This will be a simple MOU between the members, the 3 localities and us. And there won't be a large board with lots and lots of meetings, because all of those take time, and our goal is to do the things, focus on the things that will give you the biggest bang for your buck and move your program forward and help your local economic developers in doing that. And I think And you saw the numbers, as far as the cost goes, that was a big factor, Yeah, there you go. I looked at the 4 regionals around and tried to look at their funding structures for membership fees. And if you put those 4 all together, the average is about $30,000 per year per member. If you throw GRP in it, it goes up to an average of $119,000. As far as what we're offering too is we're fully invested in this with you guys. We're keeping the cost very low. And that's our investment in making this a success. It's more important to have the success than it is to get a new briefcase.
So the services that we would offer for the set fee are these, that currently your staff is I'm gonna say not proactively participating in, you all correct me if I'm wrong. Representation at the RIDO meetings, again, we can have the discussion about fair or not fair, but right now, Goochland is not present in the RIDO meetings. The VDP VTC annual FAM tour, this would be a one-time, on the ground, in Goochland, in Amelia, in Powhatan, day-long visit by the leadership and key staff members of VDP and other agencies, if you're interested, to get them physically into your community, to see, touch, feel, talk with, get to meet businesses. FAM tours are the best way to educate your VEDP team business development partners because they walk out of your community feeling connected. They also have you as top of mind awareness, and so when they look at their business prospects that are on their table right now, they're gonna remember you much better. But organizing a FAM tour takes a lot of staff time and effort. That's the work that we would do there. The quarterly visits with VEDP sector teams. So VEDP does its work, as you all know, focused on business sectors. They have specialists at the state level who understand what drives a business sector's decision location. We would make sure that we take your team with us to VEDP on a quarterly basis to sit down with those sector experts and to help them think through the message about the workforce in this area, the message about the real estate, the message about the culture, the message about the existing businesses. We would help educate the VEDP staff more effectively than you can do on your own. We would like to develop a brand, and we need key messages because we intend to utilize social media to promote this organization and to promote this region, to get your visibility through your social media contacts. This will be developed, again, with the leadership of your staff. We would provide to you quarterly what we call our RA knowledge sessions. Boards of supervisors and economic development authorities are often searching for best practices in a lot of different topics, whether it's housing, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's business retention, whatever it is. We would propose to come to you all once a quarter with a 30-minute, 1 hour long educational session, bringing in resource experts to talk about issues that are important to you. Research e-briefs, we would spend time on the topics that your team tells us they're interested in, doing in-depth research and providing these briefs to your team to help educate them, saving them from having to do their own research in deep areas. And then lastly, we would intentionally connect your staff team with the adjacent RIDOs so that there could be conversations and your staff team could understand what do those 4 other RIDOs do, how do they do it, why do they do it, what does it cost, and hopefully build a relationship that if Goochland decides this little 2-year plan is producing results, you have a partner to go to, you have a friendly partner to go to as a next step if you want to do that. So these are the common services that we would offer. This is the calendar that we're proposing, so where you see the box filled in is the time that we're doing this work for each of those areas that I mentioned above. Membership meetings, virtual most likely on a monthly basis to keep everybody informed, and then your RIDO meetings at the state quarterly, a FAM tour, sector team meetings quarterly, the branding and messaging would happen monthly or bi-weekly. In-person knowledge sessions for the EDA and the Board of Supervisors, if the supervisors wanted it, quarterly. RIDO dialogue, going to the state quarterly, and then the research e-briefs bi-monthly.
These are just the common services. These are not the unique services which we're going to talk about next.
So the unique services, we understand that you don't necessarily think you have a common interest with Powhatan and Amelia. We get that. They also don't think they have a common interest with you all necessarily. But they understand the connectivity from a business viewpoint standpoint, and that's what we look at the lens through. This is what do businesses see when they're looking at Virginia? They're looking at the greater Richmond region, and right now, that outer ring of Amelia, Goochland, and Powhatan is not on their radar screen. But we want to make sure that we give you something for your dollars that is addressing a unique issue to you. You talked today about a strategic plan. You've talked about the need for understanding how to connect workforce training entities better with your team. Maybe there's a way, maybe you need something as it relates to understanding where and what types of companies are gonna come because of the Eli Lilly location. How do you prepare for it? What kind of real estate do you need for those companies? Maybe you need research on that. That might be an area that we can consider as an individual service to you all. This one specific task, my suggestion was maybe you need to think about balanced growth, 70-30. How do you get there? What research can we do to help identify best practices? We did some research already on communities in the country that you are comparable to. We know where you stand. One of them is Arlington, Virginia, believe it or not. Others are around the Nashville area. So we've started some of that research because we believe if you see what happens in these other locations, it can help guide you. But these are just examples. There may be a bandwidth issue for your team on a specific type of task they really need help with, and we're happy to do that as well. So we're offering up to 2 of those in addition to the common service. Did we answer the questions? Is gonna be the question to you all. There's something missing here.
I've got 3 questions. So based on the timeline you showed, it appears time to stand this up is weeks if you're starting in March with actual activities as proposed. This is not something where a lead time would be 6 months or anything like that. It's almost instantaneous, correct?
We are prepared to do it instantaneously if you're all on board, yes.
So the second question I would have is, does economic development staff want this sophisticated tool in its toolbox? I think we want our staff to have every single sophisticated tool it can get so they're better at doing their job. So I would ask you, Nora.
Yes.
Well, our EDA doesn't have a staff.
Sarah.
I mean, it's
But we're
county.
adding a position, right? We're adding a new
Well, but-
position to
For
the
tourism and marketing and.
So we're
business
gonna have
relation
more
expansion.
staff. That's another cost consideration to keep in mind, is that correct?
Not
Another
for
additional
the
position
EDA.
costs
Not for
money
the
for the
EDA.
county,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's already funded through the Board of Supervisors.
So,
I would, do you want the answer to number 2? You want me to come back?
no, just,
Okay.
I would just hope it's yes or no. I mean,
Oh, it is, yes, but I've also been here almost 8 weeks now and have seen, we don't have that relationship with BEDP that I had when I was in Ashland and Hanover, that close connection and point. They will help us. If we call, they'll answer, but we aren't at that big boy table. We don't have a seat there, and this minimal investment buys us that seat, whether it's right or not. I don't think we should fall on the sword for that, because then we look bad, and whether again it's right or not, we're the problem children.
so this is a tool you want in your toolbox?
Absolutely.
Yes, okay. And then the third is the 3 players. These are 3 different players. One, also in very different economic situations.
Correct.
Has there been discussions about the role, the leadership roles that would be played in a partnership like this? I mean, I would lead into it that Goochland is in a leadership role among these 3 groups. I mean, I'm not trying to offend
Right.
our neighboring counties, but that's a reality. Is there that blunt conversation? Has it
Yes.
taken place? And
I would say yes, it's quite clear when you look at the economics, when you look at county budgets, when you look at county staffing capacity, when you look at business that are already in the communities, it's quite clear that there are totally different local economies. And to be fair, I think it's fair that both Amelia and Powhatan have acknowledged that. Powhatan sees itself much differently. It sees itself, my word here, not theirs, as a specialty tool. They're not interested in big game hunting. Amelia, on the other hand, is very interested in what I would call minimal advanced manufacturing, but not so much in anything related to life sciences right now. They have product issues. They've got to develop their product. So those conversations have been very open,
So very complimentary, it sounds like that too.
very complimentary, yes.
So what is the, would this be the only redo, will we be the only redo you represent?
Yes.
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 Question, so, all of the other readers in the state are nonprofits, is that correct?
No, no.
Which ones are
I-
for-profit?
There's none that are for-profit.
Right, so this would be the only reader that's for-profit?
This is
Or
not a-
that's run by a for-profit company?
No.
No, it's run by the counties. It's your investment, you're the
We're
owners of the
we're
process. It's a
contracted, we're
partnership.
contracted
We're
directly
contractors.
with Century.
So how do we call it a reader then? If it's not an official organization?
What is?
It is an official organization, it's a partnership. And what makes it the partnership now is the response by the EDP saying to us, yes, if these three counties come together and create a partnership and you all represent them, we will view you all as a reader. Yes. But
My
all of these-
concerns are around like transparency, FOIA, conflict of
Sure.
interest, all of the things that have to be reported through organizations
Yes.
as opposed through contractors.
Yes.
And I feel like this is a serious transparency issue for our citizens.
Okay, all of the work that my company does is with public entities. So,
Is it all open to FOIA and
We would have a
Yes, it would
memorandum
be.
of agreement that
financial
can outline.
disclosure and
Yes.
everything?
yes, yes.
So your company has to fill out the statement of economic impact and the
Yes.
conflict of interest with the state?
And no, we do not fill that out. That is not, in
So-
terms of access to the records, absolutely, yes. And to the counties, I mean, the counties have access to the records as well. Or my clients do, let me put it that way.
I mean, I don't want to be too controversial, but why wouldn't we at least pursue asking if we could join with Louisa and Albemarle and determine whether or not we would be better suited with them
Absolutely.
rather than, and I love Powhatan. All my ancestors are from Powhatan. So, but, I mean, to me, it makes good business judgment sense to see which would be the best fit for us and our culture and our
We agree.
economic demographics or whatever you want to call it. And maybe they wouldn't allow us in, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's a closed deal and we have to be invited and we're not invited to sit at the table with them.
So we,
Number 6 just started last year and they didn't ask us to the table.
well,
So right next to us,
But
Cumberland.
did we ask them?
Yeah, I think we've
We did?
No.
tested the water with those, and some.
I don't know.
some of-
so just as a reminder, two things. One, we've spoken with adjacent RIDOs about this concept. VDP was concerned that if we stood up a new RIDO adjacent to existing ones, that the existing ones would not be happy, let me put it that way. And VDP, if you go back to that map, very much respects and wants to support this system of economic development. So they asked us to go out and talk to the other RIDOs, which we did do. When we explained what this is about, that it's really an on-ramp opportunity over a 2-year period to help 3 communities understand whether or not they think a RIDO makes sense for them. And that we would intentionally introduce the Goochland Powhatan Amelia team to the Central Virginia Partnership, which is your Albemarle partnership, and to the Heartland, and to Virginia's Gateway, and to GRP. The response we got back from the adjacent RIDOs was, that would be helpful, because we would not then have to teach anybody else what it means to be a member of a RIDO. They would have already had that practice. So they found it interesting that it was an on-ramp concept. Does that make sense? Now, I can't speak as to whether or not the team and you all have already had conversations with other
Crawl forward,
adjacents.
walk forward, run. And I'm
Yeah,
not, by
kind
the
of.
way, I'm not diminishing, I love that concept.
Okay,
I was just seeming, and have we talked directly with any of these people?
that's a fair question.
It's nice what you all are doing, but, you know, there are social issues and all kinds of stuff, you know. that you have to deal with and talk to people and
Yeah.
see if you're gonna get along.
VDP, economic development is a relationship business. You're absolutely
Exactly.
correct. Yeah.
Mr.
And if
Winfrey.
I may, real quick, since the chairman has left and vice chair Spoonhour, how do we want to proceed further? Because we tend to work as an EDA in a collegiate environment. So hence,
You know what?
collegiate environment where there is a lot of discussion, a lot of going back and forth. So how do you want to proceed? Because it.
Don't be nice.
How do you want to proceed with further in this endeavor?
So I think you had a slide where there are asks on there. Your last slide, I think, had some potential asks, and are they for this evening or something that we need to consider? It sounds like we're not.
These were what you need to consider.
Okay.
I think that's how we left it as the questions. And we
It
were
doesn't
not,
have to be, need to be tonight.
That's what I was gonna say. I think this was a good introduction, probably needs more research, more thought. And then, because we'll have to decide, you know, like you said, can the EDA sign up for it? Does the board have to sign up for it?
right.
To be honest, I heard about this last week in the 15 minutes soundbite. So this is the really first exposure I've
Yeah.
had to it.
And all have business cards, any questions at all. Either call
Happy to
Liz,
answer.
call myself, or we'll set up a Zoom and have a conversation between whoever.
If I could just add one takeaway
Yes.
from this, what's proposed here, well, not proposed, but what you all are presenting, is that there's a 2-year trial period at $10,000 per year for 2 years.
Correct.
So let's be selfish for a minute. Even if this doesn't pan out, for $10,000 a year, we have an option to give this a run for it, and being greedy, we can even get them involved in our strategic planning, and also their expertise with the VDP, to me, is worth that just alone. So as a takeaway, consider that, and we haven't even gotten to, one of their bullet points was regional infrastructure challenges. Let's just say water, for example. We will have to have some collaboration with neighboring counties for some things outside of economic development that the county will have to consider as well with working. So I think this would be a great opportunity to test the water, but also see if we work well together. And if not, what do we have to lose? So let's look at what the downside of us not doing this would be.
Clarification, at the end of the 2 years, this all just goes away and we either join another redo or we don't?
Correct.
I think you've got two options at that point. You either join another REO, or you like what you've done with the partners that you have. It's been working. Why don't we just form a formal REO, and then you hire staff to actually do that? But we feel very strongly over a 2-year period, we can prepare, do the things that need to be done, that you can step into either one of those roles that you choose.
One of the reasons for introducing intentionally to the neighboring REDOs is so that they can be clear in what their operations cost, what they deliver, what do the members get out of their REDOs, so that you've got something to compare to.
And therefore, Mr. Vice Chair and Mr. Chair, are you in a situation where you want to bring that then to the board for consideration, or do you want to have the EDA, or how do you want to see this occur?
I think both boards should get together. Mr. Chair, do you
Are you asking if we were to commit to this?
No, it's going forward from right now.
From this point
Yeah.
on.
I think both boards need to get together. It sounds like the EDA doesn't have a combined recommendation. Our board doesn't have a combined recommendation. So I think if we speak individually, then bridge the gap, we can figure out at a later date how to bridge that gap of.
Do we have a recommendation?
Right. Yeah.
We do not.
So that might be the best
Can-
move.
Can I just ask one more
EDA is
question?
here.
Can we get an EDA recommendation? Yeah.
Before we ask that, are most of the members of these redos EDAs or supervisors or counties or
Yeah.
combination?
It's a combination of how the funding flows, if that's what you're asking. Typically, the members are the what I'll call working members, for lack of a better term, are the local economic developer who is at the table while the REDO makes its decisions. There is a REDO in Southwest Virginia that is, again, these are very formalized Rios, but they have a, I can't remember what they call it, but they have a big, what I call the big board, that's made up of local elected officials, okay, from all of their member communities. And then they have a working group that's made up of the local practitioners. So every one is a little bit different, but those are, virtually all of those are much more formalized than this would be. This would be a strategic partnership for 2 years to test the waters.
To further that question, is it usually the EDA or the Board of Supervisors who has the MOU with the RIDO?
It varies. It varies.
So.
It's very much a local
My
decision.
recommendation, my ask would potentially be, this is the tool, it's gonna impact mostly the staff that works directly with you and the work that you all do. So I would like you guys to get together and decide, is this something that you would want to move forward with? And if so, bring it to the board. If not, still bring it to the board, we may want to bring it forward. I think we should hear from the ED, because we talked about giving you all tools, right?
I think best course of action moving forward is, when we leave here tonight, we deliberate amongst ourselves, you know, together, give it some time. We set up possibly a chair, vice chair meeting, you know, after we kind of get a sense of each of our respective boards, and suggest an action moving forward from there.
Point of clarification though, isn't that why they're here today?
We don't have
Isn't that our impression, our intention?
I think it was an opportunity to socialize the idea amongst, important players at the table, and, certainly we can circle back and.
Can we get a meeting with BEDP or a representative of BEDP? Thank you.
I would hope we take into account the costs of individuals potentially 10 individuals coming together, whether it be morning, middle of the day, or evening, to have another meeting to discuss a $20,000 expense. That is wasted government. So I'm sorry, we might have disagreements, but we need to come to a decision on a $20,000 expenditure.
It's more than
I
$20,000,
disagree,
Mr.
yeah.
Chairman, if I could
There's
explain.
opportunity, there's opportunity cost.
Go ahead.
By taking it off their plates.
My earlier comment was that I thought, I like it in theory, not this year. With our new economic development, and I learned something tonight that she had some exposure to vetoes as part of the Ashland effort. But I have a huge interest in seeing her successfully on board. And I don't know if this was part of her interview process, I didn't participate in that. But for right now, I'm actually willing to give the chairman of the EDA my proxy, and if he thinks through their team that this is something that needs to be done, and I'm using the word needs, because I am looking at an Amazon that is located in Goochland. I'm looking at a Lilly that has located in Goochland. I'm looking at an Axial that is located in Goochland. I'm looking at some other success stories that were shared tonight that are located in Goochland. I think the upside's great. I just don't think it's this year. So,
But can I make a point? All of those things, I believe, came based after we gave the tools to the staff that asked us. It sounds like they're asking us for this.
well, it sounds like it's the word. And that's why
They're shaking their heads.
I asked the question.
I guess you did. And so I think somebody missed that I was willing to give my proxy to the chairman of the EDA.
Well, the prudent thing to me, I like your idea of two members from the board, 2 members from the EDA. It could be the chairs and vice chairs, or someone else designated to further this, but is this the only choice? I mean, I keep coming back, and I don't want to make a decision sort of in somewhat of a vacuum.
Well, yeah, I definitely don't want to make a decision tonight, and,
No, I'm not saying, but I'm saying two by two, because we have that constraint. Either we have to get back 10 people again. 2 people from each organization, board and the EDA, and come back with a recommendation.
This is a legitimate meeting where you can appropriate the money tonight, can't you? If you so desire. I think the
Bring it
problem
to
is
a vote
there's a
to review
division of, the EDA is probably not do it to use EDA bond monies that have come in to do it. I think there's that wide of a spectrum, so I don't know.
Well,
For
I
me,
think
it's
you
not
need a
it's
commitment
not
from the
just
county
the
then.
appropriation of money, it's
You know,
the
because that's where the staff
MOU,
is.
all of
Can we,
the nitty gritty details.
Can we make a motion?
The MOU will come
It'll be
later.
provided at a later time.
Yeah, those details will be hashed
Mr. Chair,
out.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we vote on this tonight to approve $20,000 for the trial period for this rehab.
All right, and do I have a second?
I'll second for the sake of discussion.
All right.
One thing I would just like to personally say is I feel like on same page as you, not the right time. We don't even have a strategic plan to know where we're going. So why are we gonna start driving the car in a direction if we don't even know that's the direction we wanna go in? That's one of my biggest issues.
And Mr. Chairman, I would ask, do you mind the EDA commenting on your?
Yeah, do you?
Yeah, or
No,
point of order?
no.
Okay.
I don't wanna start till there's two of
I
us.
don't want to go outside
Oh.
the bounds of
Well,
your juris, or.
actually, yes, I do mind.
Okay.
Because this is solely about appropriating money, and I think we've all kind of hashed out a lot on the principles and the ifs and whatnots.
If we appropriate the money, does that mean the EDA has to move forward?
That's a good question.
Like,
You could
could this be,
On that, you
if
may
if the board decides to do it, that, because I do believe there's more research needed, to some degree, whether that's like a meeting, but just because we, is it appropriated or authorized?
Typically, if I may, on behalf of the process, typically you have an item before you that asks you to provide authority to execute a contract and appropriate the money. So it's not exactly clear if Mr. Calder's motion did mention the money, but that's just the normal course. If you just appropriate money, it does not guarantee that it gets spent. You have funding appropriated in your budget.
It just authorizes, it doesn't demand.
That's correct.
Okay.
Well, and the MOU would come back through whomever staff told us it needed to go to. If it's the Board of Supervisors or if it's the EDA. That is a local process and every locality does it differently.
So supervisors can appropriate the money, then the EDA members, the appropriate EDA, could we then have a more intimate discussion about this at a future meeting, deciding whether to go forward, given the fact that we've already got the money appropriated by the Board of Supervisors?
Dr. Rayleigh, did you have something?
So I think a couple things. Number one is if the money would be appropriated, ultimately an MOU would need to be provided to the board, which then sets forth the action. You may have the money, but if you don't sign an MOU, then the money's just appropriated. So I think ultimately the Board of Supervisors would, upon legal review, have the opportunity to take action on the MOU. I think Mr. Winfrey asked a question about relationships that we have with Louisa and to the west, and I think Sarah has done some outreach in the past, and so maybe that could be some additional context. So, you want to share what you've done?
Yes, so we have had conversations in the past with Central Virginia Partnership, which is the region to our west, and Greater Richmond Partnership to our east. And Central Virginia Partnership is more affordable than Greater Richmond Partnership. We did find that our targeted industries and our geographies didn't quite align. There's a big gap between where Albemarle ends, or technically it's Fluvanna, is part of Central Virginia Partnership, and where our growth area starts. And so we ultimately, just from a staff perspective, didn't think it made a lot of sense to move forward with them. That was pre-COVID. So, things do change, and this onboarding opportunity would give us another opportunity to have further those conversations with Central Virginia Partnership to see if maybe strategies have changed since then.
However.
So with that, so we've got a motion and a second.
Can I withdraw my motion and make a?
Yeah, because if I could speak up, the other thing I want to be careful of is if the money is appropriated to the EDA without any conditions at all, there's no guarantee an MOU will come back
That's-
before the board because they could choose to join it as the member
But
and not, never come to
could
you
I
guys.
make a motion to appropriate and give staff authority to negotiate an MOU?
That will come back to, subject to approval by the board or the EDA, the board.
The staff, I mean, the
Okay.
board.
I would accept the friendly.
So it's been a friendly amendment
slow
for the
time.
MOU to be to appropriate the money and authorize staff to negotiate agreement that would come to the board of supervisors for approval.
Yes.
And that's accepted by Mr.
Does anybody else have any other discussion, or are we ready to vote?
Well, I just wanted to point out, if we're in discussion here, that there's no question about the magnitude of the economic development in Louisa and Albemarle versus Powhatan and Amelia. And again, to which we would align, I'm not sure geographically, which was brought out, or whether that has anything to do with it. I mean, you know, do we want to hook on with Success, or, you know, I just, you know, I'd like to at least pursue it. And maybe we feel like we already have pursued it. Maybe we're not even invited. Maybe they won't even have us, I don't know. But relative to us and Louisa and Albemarle, you know, Powhatan and Amelia, they're not as economically advanced and so forth and so on. We are more of a regional player, I think. And we're getting more and more that way as we are part of the Richmond metropolitan region. So I don't want to have a barrier.
You did reference that the 2-year trial could very well lead into our joining
Yes.
another regional
That's right.
alliance.
Yes.
So
I'll go with
this
that.
is,
I'll go with that.
so this trial period is nothing, is
All right,
diligence in
all
many
right,
ways.
So board members, let's go to a vote. Is this a roll call vote, Dr. Rayleigh, or is this a voice vote?
Probably do a roll call.
All right,
Want me to do the roll call?
yes, sir.
Okay, we'll start with Mr. Lau,
No,
Mr. Winfrey,
Yes.
Mr. Waters.
Yes.
Mr. Swedenauer,
Yes.
and Mr. Christie.
Yes.
We'll move forward with working with the group and.
You guys did a great job, by the way. Thank you.
And just say thank you for, we would have been happy to leave the room. We appreciate hearing the conversation. It helps us a lot understand how to work with you. And we hope that we can get to that point.
Thank y'all.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Dr. Riley.
2 more hours to go.
We may look back on this. Where is your
Do we have anything else?
We do.
All right, I'm gonna be at,
There's one other.
but I can call you in the morning.
I'll look at my calendar.
There's one other agenda.
I know, I'm sitting here, I got like Davis.
Chance, thank you.
So, Mr. Sloan and Mr. Christie and board members,
Order.
on our agenda, we do have some remaining topics, and ultimately, it's whatever the pleasure of both boards want to do. I think one of the conversations that came up in a previous Board of Supervisors meeting was the relation of economic development and housing. We have prepared a variety of data points and slides for review and discussion today. One of the conversations as well that came up in a recent dialogue was related to how we can best use the old Goochland Elementary School. So we are prepared to have that conversation tonight if you want to. If not, we can certainly postpone that to a different setting, but we do have some additional content we prepared for review tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I might suggest, I think the EDA is more than ready to continue with the presentation.
Yeah, I agree.
We do a 5-minute recess. Or do it, just a 5-minute recess.
Yeah, let's-
Just repeat.
Yeah, let's do a 5-minute recess.
That's good.
Okay. 5-minute recess for EDA.
We're trying to find a business.
EDA is out of recess, back into session.
Board is out of recess and back in session. Dr. Rayleigh.
So board members, for the next topic, we just wanted to provide some information we have from sources that are cited related to housing trends in Goochland and the region. This is a topic that came up in a conversation, I think, at a recent board meeting, so we wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk about any sort of connection that may or may not be there related to the two topics. And so staff has prepared some slides for you to hit some highlights, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. Nora?
All right, so I am simply providing data here. You all can take the conversation afterwards.
swear.
Please don't think that I am saying anything about housing. I will, you probably saw a lot of this information in a previous presentation that Sarah and maybe Chance had worked on. And so I have updated some of the information. But what hasn't changed is workforce is still a key driver for economic development. It's one of the first things people come in and ask about. And so making sure that we're maintaining that workforce. It doesn't necessarily have to be Goochland's workforce. It can be a regional workforce. We know that people are coming from Louisa and Powhatan and probably Amelia to work here in Goochland. But we have to be able to show those numbers to any of our prospects. A lack of affordable housing, and I think affordable housing sometimes gets a bad rap. In my opinion, affordable housing should be affordable for all. So we should be trying to make sure that we have a housing spectrum that makes it affordable for all people, not just those living at a certain income level. And then, so it hampers business expansion, and then can impact being able to attract talent. Without sufficient supply of housing, employers and prospects can be at a competitive disadvantage given the difficulty in attracting and retaining workers. Again, it doesn't have to necessarily be housing in Goochland. We can look regionally, and we do, if we move forward, could have a seat at the table, for example, with the Partnership for Housing Affordability, and Plan RVA just did a market value analysis, or they're in the process of finishing that up, for a regional housing analysis, which I think a lot of the data that will come out of that will be helpful for further conversations we have. And as is shown here, we do have a very young population, depending on your age and what you think young is. But in comparison to Virginia, it is much older. So the Virginia median age is 38. Goochland's median age is about 49. And you can see the breakout in that 45 to 65 age range, 48% of, 45 to 65 plus, 48% of our population falls into that slightly less than younger population. So here's a slide you saw, again, back I believe in 2024, and these numbers have changed. This number here on the right was 19,000 the last time you saw it, but let's see if this will work. Yes. So this number right here, 1,917, are the people who live in Goochland and work in Goochland. So they live and work here. This number is 10,000. That's the number of people who live in Goochland and commute outside of our locality to work. 23,000 is the number of employees in Goochland. And so again, not too long ago, a year and a half or so ago, this was 19,000. So we've seen a significant increase in the number of employees here in Goochland. And based off of the information we talked about tonight with Eli Lilly, with Axial, Amazon, we expect this number to keep growing and could easily see over additional 3,000 growth within the next few years. This slide is interesting. It just shows the pockets of employment. And so you can see here in the courthouse area with the county administrative services and schools, you do see a little bit more employment here. And then you see over here where you would have your CarMax and Capital One and such. This is a breakout of industries, and not surprising, under the finance and insurance, you have over 13,000 employees. So a large majority, 54% of our workforce is in this finance and insurance, which falls into the Capital One and CarMax sectors. So this is information that we got from the Home Building Association of Richmond, and these are 2025 numbers, and these are regional. So this is Chesterfield, Henrico, Hanover, Goochland, and New Kent. So they've been keeping track of the number of lots that are being rezoned versus the number of lots that are receiving new permits and new home sales. And so you can see since 2022, the number of rezoned lots has gone down, but the number of permits have not. And so I apologize, I don't know our number of approved lots in whole, but let's say we had 1,000 lots and we're not keeping up with those, but we're selling more annually than we are approving, eventually we will run out of lots. And it does take approximately 1.5 to 2 years after approval of a rezoning to actually see a home come out of ground. And so here's just, they did break out Goochland's rezoning approvals since 2017. And so you can see there were fewer in 2023 and 2024 than the years before and after. And we can share all this information with you so you can, if you're a data person, you can dive into it. This information came from the Richmond Association of Realtors, and I just combined Goochland with Henrico and Chesterfield. In my time here, a lot of the employers we've talked to said that their employees are coming from Henrico and Chesterfield and also from Hanover. And so this is just a comparison of sales prices. So the median sales price for Goochland for 2025 being $656,000 in comparison to Henrico at $412 and Chesterfield at $439. So we are higher by a couple $100,000 for our median sales price. This chart here came from Partnership for Housing Affordability, and this is the Goochland home price affordability model. And so the median home price is in this column. In 2025, they're showing it at $640,000. The income needed, and that's based off of not spending more than 30% of your income on your housing costs, would be $180,000. And I haven't paid any attention to my notes. The median household income. The median household income for Goochland is $118,000, up from last year, which was $105,000. So we've grown $13,000 in our median household income, and the mean individual income for Goochland is $68,000, and that came from the census numbers. And then this next slide, these are I have to tell you, these are regional numbers. We got this slide from Partnership for Housing Affordability, and in comparison to the median home price, these are the occupation values. Again, a regional number, not necessarily, these aren't Goochland numbers. For a police officer, elementary school, paralegal, dental assistant, retail salesperson, and child care worker, and where the line is for affordability. Okay, those were my numbers, and I love housing. I love talking about it, and I love the numbers, and I'm not sure that we have time, if you all wanted to take time to do it tonight, but I'd be happy to meet with anyone to talk about it.
Do we have time for one question? Mr. Chairman?
As long as it doesn't lead to another.
I think what skews our figures a little bit may be the fact that the in-migration number is skewed by Capital One, CarMax, those big companies, right?
We
Very
do have
few
some
companies
major employers.
employ a tremendous amount of our in-migration. So I'm not sure what that means.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
But if we were to look at it, what's really happening in Goochland as far as other jobs are concerned, small businesses and so forth? Take that out of there and look at it and say, you know, are we a good employer county in general? And how vulnerable we are to the big guys.
how many lots are already approved?
So,
I know you know that answer.
do have that answer.
We've been working on this.
So we are working on updating the future growth map. We should, we have the data, we're just working on the actual map. So we should have that out, next month or so. But as of first quarter 2026, there was, 1,726 lots available. However, staff analyzed these lots and were only classifying 1,047 as active, and the remaining 679 is inactive. So inactive is defined as lots that are located in subdivisions that have been recorded, but they have not experienced any development in the last 5 years, or in subdivisions that have been rezoned, but the lots haven't been recorded and they've just been sitting. So we have subdivisions out there and lots out there, 679 of them, that we don't anticipate coming online in the next 5 years or so. But we do have 1,047 lots right now that are active.
Does that include by right splits or just subdivisions?
Does not, subdivisions.
So we
Named-
read into that, it will happen within the next 5
Follow-up
years?
question?
I would like to clarify. It includes named, rezoned subdivisions and by right splits that have already been split. It does not include the splits that we have yet to analyze.
No, I said he didn't want follow-up questions.
All right, each of you get a comment if you want.
Go ahead. I'll pass mine in.
So, my question in 2x2, and it's been, and you saw it in the board meeting last month, was what is the true economic impact of the residential growth? There's, you know, if you put a multifamily home up, some other board members believe it's a net negative, that we lose money. If you build a subdivision, it's a net negative. I'd love to have a better understanding of the true economic impacts to the things that we are approving or declining.
It's my understanding that we have an on-call consultant that we intend to work with to get some of those financial figures.
Great.
To make one comment. I think it's critically important to think about this as it relates to workforce, and I will stress the word work. If they work in Goochland, I want them to have an option in Goochland when we're thinking through this. So that's just my belief.
Just have one comment. I just want to make sure this is on everybody's radar. HB 1212, which has made it through the House, is expected to make it through the Senate and will probably be signed, makes localities with more than 20,000 residents adopt a zoning district with small lot residential, 3,000 square feet or less. So when we're talking about housing and affordable housing, I think there's about to be a mandate where we have a zone specifically for it, with lots that are 3,000 square feet or less.
Patio homes and stuff, high density.
Yeah, basically high density, low dollar, affordable
Affordable.
housing.
Isn't that what skews our average price down of our house, is because we don't have any low-income houses in this entire county? Nobody will allow it to go through, we get too much citizen pushback.
No, it's building costs, as I understand it, it's building costs and land costs.
I mean, it's, try to look up how much it costs for just a little small, let's say, a single family home, one level. You know, it's like what, $300,000 just for like a 3-bedroom home, stick built home.
I think they. All right, that's not.
We don't want to go into all that. I'll never.
All right.
The cautionary thing is state telling us what to do.
Mr. Winfrey,
May I say something to the Vice Chair? I completely concur with you in the fact that everything you do has a cost associated with it, positive or negative, and all that research should be done and based on data. And it doesn't matter to me whether it's just looking at the aquifer, like you brought up before, or traffic, and accurate measurement, traffic, not estimated. Yep, great.
I think before we transition, just for the benefit of the public that's here and maybe listening later, is the Board of Supervisors are evaluating their current capital impact model. And so we're evaluating the true cost of any sort of development, and from a single-family dwelling to a multifamily residential, looking at a variety of impacts on schools, law enforcement, fire, rescue. And so ultimately, we'll be sharing that with the public in the coming months, slated for July 1st potential implementation.
All right, so thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very quickly, there was a request to add adaptive reuse of former Goochland Elementary School and Career Technical Education building to the agenda, so we can, I think, just get juices starting to flow about potential uses for these two buildings. So we have done a preliminary architectural completed in 2025. We did identify and analyzed multiple uses for both the former Goochland Elementary School and what's going to be the former CTE building. We looked at a hotel, we looked at county offices, we looked at childcare, we looked at restaurant/cafe and a community center. And the findings were based on the layout of the buildings and the infrastructure that's there now. Former GES is best utilized for things like county offices, childcare, and a restaurant and cafe. The CTE building will be best utilized for childcare, restaurant, and community center uses. And I can walk you through how that was analyzed, but first, this is part of the HBA study, this space study that was recently completed by the county, where they did identify that the vacated career tech building could be used for future economic development, and that the former Goochland Elementary School could be used for some type of county offices, government offices. So looking here, this is the former Goochland Elementary School. You can see laid out, it could offer multiple uses in this scenario. County offices on the second floor, child care on the first floor. There's a room for a cafe. This was a multi-purpose room. This would be the kitchen that serves the cafe. In this scenario, this would be this CTE building. Lends itself really well to child care. This is the top floor where they have broken down to older children. And then here, office space, more child care, and then some fun activity areas in the high bay areas for the CTE building for childcare. Another potential use, this is looking at mostly county offices in the former Goochland Elementary School, top floor, first floor, still keeping the cafe concept, and then the kitchen, and then potential bar and restaurant. And this would be keeping what they fondly call the hexagon as keeping those for offices too. This is part of the space study, so you can actually see laid out what this showed just as gross square footage of offices. They have done a test fit and determined that you could fit Goochland County Public Schools Administration, the health department, and all of human services in the former Goochland Elementary School first and second floor without having to utilize the hexagon. This was another fun kind of representation of what could be done with this CTE building. They envisioned perhaps the kitchen, back a kitchen here, bar, restaurant, a game room, could be a brewery, so there's room for brewing here, a tasting room or some other type of restaurant here, and then upstairs an arcade game room, video game room, open play kind of area, more of a community center type use. And then lastly, they did analyze what a hotel would look like. They would have to utilize both the former Goochland Elementary and the CTE building to make it work. So both would have to be under hotel, but They did think about having like lobby rooms. These would all be individual hotel rooms. And then the CTE offers office space for the hotel, and then meeting rooms, a kitchen, and a bar and restaurant that could go along with it. I will say I floated this to 2 hoteliers, and it wasn't enough rooms to make the money work for them. So.
I know one of the first original conversations was apartments. Was that taken off the table?
It was.
Does it say why?
I think once we figured out that the hotel rooms, how much it was gonna cost to convert to a hotel room, how much to cost to convert to an apartment was just astronomical, so. And I believe that might be the end of my presentation on that, but, there has been work done in this space, for sure.
Quick question, has a co-working space been considered, or maybe like part of all that too?
That could be as part of it, yeah.
I think these options and maybe even more, I think ultimately we have an asset in our community that's on our front porch. And so ultimately, what's the best use of that? And as time goes on, if that building's not used, it's going to deteriorate, become an eyesore. And so ultimately, we'll take money either publicly or privately, make sure that that asset is being used well, but we wanted to socialize some of these concepts with you and let you know where we are.
How many classrooms are in, not counting the hexagon? I counted 30 hotel rooms, and then when you were talking about office space, it seemed like the offices had got really big. And then I saw there was maybe 30 hotel rooms, and so I didn't know how big an office would have to be.
Yeah, the offices is more like block programming, so they literally took the square footage that they thought human services would need to satisfy them in the future and just kind of plopped it down. It was not broken out into any sort of functional use. It's more like it could fit here.
Okay, so block programming means a whole department goes there, not an office.
Correct.
Thank
Yes,
you.
sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
May I
Chairman.
ask one question?
Same rules.
Should I
Same
go
rules.
after him?
Yes, you can go after. Go ahead, Mr. Winfrey.
I'd second the question.
Have we taken it down, the analysis of this, a little further to determine a guesstimate of what the economic impact would be to us on these various scenarios? And I guess the elephant in the room to me is the county needs more office space. So that may trump everything, because if we have to go and construct something to make our employees a little more efficient, better working conditions, that would be very expensive. And of course, there's no cheap way to convert this either.
Yeah, so you're going to be presented with the results of the space study on Tuesday. That's been many months of work. It includes some of the narrative related to the experiences our folks are having in certain elements of this building, potential opportunities. We just want to provide the board some choices. Ultimately, used for a variety of things. What is the best choice? If we choose to utilize that space, there is certainly a cost, an unbudgeted cost right now. We don't have the capital dollars to renovate this space. It could be a significant investment of upwards of $20 million potentially. But ultimately, that is an asset in our community, and we need to work together to find out what we want to do with that in the future.
My question was, has the county agreed that these structures are going to stay here, or have we entertained the idea of something totally different?
Raise them.
Stay here for now.
I'm not aware of any conversations related to
Well,
it. and,
that's my question.
yeah.
Is it off the table, or because, the county wants to keep the buildings? Or, because we could come up with another plan, like a town square community type thing. I know we're kind of doing that with existing structures, but I don't know, the layout, the footprint just doesn't feel right.
I think part of the ecosystem is ultimately the work we're doing from a Parks and Rec master planning standpoint. the role of that field that's right there, you know, the field's behind us, like this entire complex, you know, what does that look like long-term?
Okay.
So if we zoom out, pardon me?
Keep it with the county.
Well, the other assets are with the county, so what role does that building play in
Right.
the overall ecosystem here in the complex?
Got it.
With the childcare, he may have touched on this, having a side discussion. Who's funding that? I mean, is this like, are we selling it or renting it, the space out with a specific purpose in mind? Or how is this working?
I think it could be any of those options,
Okay.
yeah.
But it's not necessarily subsidizing or like, you know, the county restaurant or the county daycare or, okay.
Right. It could be a private provider that wants to go in there and use that space.
Okay.
Could be, would be.
I think it could be a private provider that would lease that space from us.
So if it's not private, who would it be?
All right, let's.
We're not getting into the childcare business. It's the
We're
county.
not advocating
No,
for
that's
that at this
basically
point in
what
time.
what I was getting at, but
Yeah.
we don't need to, it's late.
I only have 12 more questions, by the way.
Existing structure is limited, right? That's what we're trying to figure out.
It has uses. What's the best use?
All right, does anybody else said anything? All right, with that, now the Board of Supervisors will adjourn to the Tuesday, March 3rd, meeting at 2 p.m. for the Audit and Finance Committee in Conference Room 270. And also Tuesday, March 3rd, at 3 p.m. for the regular business meeting and 6 p.m. public meetings, and board meeting room 250. With that, board is adjourned.
And therefore, the EDA, our next meeting is Wednesday, March 18th at 5:30. Is there a motion to adjourn to that time?
So moved.
Second. Since it's not debatable, all in favor, please state aye.
Aye.
Against? Abstain. We are adjourned to March 18th.
Thank you very much.
Cookies for you.